Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. We're starting with our usual Nash news, and I've got the gaffer in again. Kev, how are you?
I'm good. Bit scruffy today. Just come off the lakes. One of my favourite times of year is like my Christmas, because we have deliveries of fish. And just had some arrive this morning.
Some unbelievable fish, haven't you, Kev?
Some crackers, 20 what they call C5s, so 5 summer-old fish, specially selected. Oh, some gorgeous fish, great shoulders.
Where are they from, Kev?
It's from an old friend of mine, John Patton, who's got Fisher's Green.
Nice.
Probably one of the oldest fish farms in the UK now, I would suggest, or he's probably the oldest one being the game.
Yeah,
it was his fish that I think they might have changed now. I nearly said something I shouldn't have done, but it's his fish.
Kev?
It's his.
Kev Nash saying something he shouldn't.
It's his fish that he used to give the lesser ones to Martin Simmons, who would then bring on and kept the cream for himself. You know,
Okay. But the ones that you've had, they're going into which lake, Kev?
Gone into the new Red Lake and the Cops. Most people probably won't know that the famous Cop was drained down 3 years ago. I was suffering from big silt problems. Someone once said to me, a lake's richest years are its first 15. And they're certainly right with that. You know, like anything, they start going downhill, silting up. You know, fish poo, duck poo, dead weed, you know, leaves. You know, and ultimately, I guess, you know, they'd end up as firm land, wouldn't they? You know, then then the rushes and that take over as they get shallower and shallower. The rushes mat up, and then it'd be firm land. So, yeah, we shut it down. I was fortunate in as much as I was just excavating a new lake called the Red Lake, and so we moved him into that lovely new home. It's about 4 or whatever acres, and we supplemented the Red Lake with the fish that come today.
Nice. I'm going to have to take a little walk round here, Kev. I don't think I've seen this Red Lake.
You're joking?
No. I've done Cops I've seen, and I've seen it drain down, which was fascinating, to be fair.
Yeah, you just got to get past the guards in the Dover.
Oh, yeah, there was some dogs we were filming the other day. There's some big old dogs in that field, isn't there?
Not in mine, mate. That's next door neighbour.
Next door? Yeah,
he's a nightmare. He's got something, you know, like looks something out of a horror film, and you know, it gets through the fence and really terrorises.
It gets through the fence.
It gets through the fence.
I'm not having that.
And that thing looks like a devil dog. You know, it really terrorises. You know, my missus. She's frightened to go around it. Yeah, I tried to have a word with him. He said, "Well, I can't stop me dog getting through the fence." I felt like saying, "You're not getting it, mate. Yeah, you've got to stop your dog getting through the fence." But
that's nice and safe.
People are so funny. I'll just shoot the bastard if it carries on.
Just shoot the bastard if it chomps your missus.
Yeah.
Let's hope that doesn't happen, Kev. But yeah, stunning fish, and I'll overlay some images here because when you were stocking them, there was some.
Make sure you
taken.
Put that fully scaled up.
Oh, ridiculous fish!
I can't wait to see that at 40 plus.
That'll be amazing in a few years, won't it?
Yeah, fully scaled. You don't get many big girls, you know.
No.
You know, I was gutted when we lost the cuckoo. You know, lost that at 44. Yeah. That was on its way to a 50.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, how many 50-pound fully scales has the UK ever done? One, maybe?
Yeah, not many, mate.
Yeah, not many. Very rare fish, so yeah.
But they're regardless of the weight, they're absolute stunners, mate, and they'll be amazing in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
That is big. A topical point, recent news, we have to talk about none other than carp catching extraordinaire, Mr. Jim Shelley.
Well, he certainly is.
You're
talking about his 50 and...
He recently had a £50 8 or £50 6, the boss from Woolpack Lake 8. I think he's had, don't quote me on these stats, but they're hopefully bang on. He's had 76 carp this year from the Woolpack.
Really?
Lake 8. He's had that 50. And a lot of them, which is what I was going to speak to you about, I watched his Sipography episode that he did on Church. A lot of the fish he's had from Woolpack as well have been on the old bungee trigger link dark side rigs, he calls them. So I wanted to talk to you first about obviously Jim's achievements and all that stuff, because obviously you've got some history with him, and then also where the concept of trigger link came from.
First on Jim.
Yeah.
A bit of a colourful character, isn't he? You know, he says it how it is. I've always had a fondness for him.
Yeah.
You know, he worked for Nash a long time ago. What would that be? I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And whilst he went off to pursue other business
avenues.
arrangements,
Yeah,
avenues, shall we say. Me and Jim have always, I like to think, be friends, and we occasionally talk. If for no other reason, he always makes me smile, bless you, Jim, but he's not the sort of person I would imagine would have a penchant for fine dining. But
No, he doesn't.
But he has, and as I say, he really loves and appreciates and understands fine food. But I'd also observe he's right up there in the absolute top echelons of the most capable anglers in the country. I think that's for two reasons. One, his work ethic, but B, he does it. Not many of them do. He understands edges. That was my carp career. Always looking for the next thing in the next edge. Always with the view, if you're using the same rig or same base as whatever on the lake, then you're going to have to share the action. Basically, catch the same as the rest. Exactly. So I've always looked for that edge, which is why things like the blowout rig come about, and the trigger link. The trigger link.
You were saying to me, Kev, that trigger link was probably one of your least successful selling products.
Well, it probably is the least successful.
Really?
And I think anglers like Jim and me would be very happy with that. You're like saying why? Well, like I said, you've only got an edge if everyone else is not using it. It actually come about as far back as nearly the mid-90s when I was really fertile and doing all the massive rig experiments, and that's when the blowback rig come about. But I was also experimenting with what are now called so-called bungee legs, putting elastic into the setup with a simple logical and factual belief that if a fish is hanging on a bit of nick on the elastic, it's hard for it to get off. That come about because I become aware that they was lifting fixed leads off the off the bottom, swinging them to rip the hooks out. Where if they swing it and it goes boing, and in fact, I'll jump forward a bit now. It really did prove an edge. And the first time I started using it, the takes were completely different. You get twitches, a bobbing, be jumping up and down. You just imagine that carp thinking, what's going on here? What's going on here? I can't get off. Fuck, I can't get off. I can't get away. Fuck, I'm going to run. And and that is, well, you can actually see an example of it in my video, Monster Pursuit. When I had the comment, it actually shows the camera on the take and it jumped up and down before it roared off. But anyway, the big problem with so-called bungee rigs and tying in pole elastic is you just can't get any consistency and accuracy of length because the stuff stretches. Anyway, I had a great friend who used to produce all our hook links, and I discussed the problem with him. He could have a stretchy hook link, but I just had a genius moment, but maybe put PVA in it. And that in essence is the key real advantage of a trigger link. When you tie the rig, it doesn't stretch.
No, that's right.
But when you cast it out,
in the water,
PVA melts. And you've got this, so-called bungee rig then. And Jim, the great and wise man he was, really saw the advantages of it. And as you say, he's absolutely milked it in the last year. It'll never sell because you have to tie a proper rig. I've always said it about combi rigs. Never will you see me using a so-called combi rig where it's a bit of a hook link with a plastic sheathing stripped off the end. That is a lazy man's combi rig. You definitely get more fish, and I've proved it. Fishing rods against rods, you definitely get more fish if you tie a proper combi rig with a proper stiff element. I still use amnesia, and then a soft bit on the front. It's proven. It works for whatever reason different. And the trigger link, you need to tie a knot in the middle of it and put a different material on the front. I guess it might also put people off because it's a bit thick and it's a light colour. It
is a light colour, isn't it?
That's two things that are unavoidable. Christ sake, have you ever heard of bottom clay or felt tip?
Exactly.
But it's been out since 1995-ish, 2000-ish, I guess, because I painted it. Could check back on the patent. So, like many real edges and inventions in angling, it takes at least 15, 20 years to take off. Break off leads, for example. I was the first one to start the break off lead thing, the chod rig, zig rig, all these things bizarrely seem to take 15 or 20 years before anglers really start getting on it. So, yeah.
Well, I've got some in the tackle box, Kel. I'm looking forward to experiment with that because, as I say, before sort of coming here, I can't say I've used it. I've seen it. I definitely saw it in the Monster Sheep video, and I thought, oh, that looks pretty good. But actually getting my hands on it and using it, as you say, it's definitely an edge used in the right format, the right way.
Very few lakes have seen
it. Yeah, exactly.
And I don't need to say more. As soon as carp are fished for, they learn. They're learning from anglers. Yeah. And so if there's a proven method that's never been used on the majority of English lakes, which that is.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. But like I said, I'm very comfortable to talk about it because I know that it'll be ignored. So the likes of me and Jim keep our edge.
Good enough for Jim. And good enough for me. We'll move on to slightly more sombre now.
You're going to talk about Marsh Pratley.
The recent passage of Marsh Pratley. Obviously, Orchid Lake's legend now, mate. Done a lot for those lakes, hasn't he, over the period of time?
Yeah, great shame. He did a lot to develop those lakes. He might have been the first person I ever heard of who offered a quad driving service where they deliver the gear. But, the man and his family can be very proud of what he achieved because a lot of great anglers cut their teeth and have gone through it and fished it. Rob Crowley, for example, when he was with me, he was always down there. In fact, that could have been the first place he used the famous scopic squid.
Really?
Oh, yeah, some real good anglers have gone through there.
Yeah, mega complex lakes.
Nice lake. They look good as well. You see the photos of them. I think in that.
Crowie did a recent blog of his own on there not too long ago at all, and it looks stunning. So
shame, unfortunately, we're all getting older.
Well,
I suppose one day you'll be saying, "Oh, Nash is gone. You'll have a real party then." Got rid of that old bastard.
Not at all, mate. A long time until that.
Who you got on today then, anyway?
I've got none other than Rob Hughes himself, Crowie's partner in crime for a while.
That's mad. Yeah, after talking about Marsh Pratley, I would imagine. I can't actually recollect Rob fishing there, but he would definitely have fished there.
Oh, he must have.
With Simon, because him and Simon joined at the hip. I used to think they was gay once, actually. There's no proof. There's no proof. I'm only saying that because I know Robbie's not a practicing lawyer now.
No, you're all right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm all right now.
You waved off any sort of legal suing.
Yeah, Rob. Well,
he was with you for a bit, wasn't he?
He was with me. He was with us for quite a while. Him and Simon come as a duo. There was Batman and Robin.
A couple.
Yeah. What age would they have been? Ooh, I would guess low 20s. Was certainly. I remember Rob at the time was doing these exams. Just pulled the Mike's earphones.
Right,
Rob was doing his exams to become a solicitor.
Really?
Yeah, they was with us for some years. I'm not sure many people know that they won the first World Championships.
So I didn't know this, and you said, what did they win it on?
Well, it was fished. It was on Fisher Bill.
Yeah.
And we just brought out the solly balls.
Yes.
Basically, which was a concept of having a round spherical ball, 20 mil, like a barley, but they wouldn't fill them up. So it's like, if you like, a round ball pellet.
Yeah.
So you'd bait up the swim, and they'd all dissolve. So they gave the offer of food, but without filling,
without the substance. Yeah.
Without the substance, and. Both real tactical anglers. I've never spoke to them about it, but they clearly decided that was the tactic they was going to use. And when you listen to Robin recent stuff and how he manages the England team, you just see how his mind works. And that's the way they went, and they absolutely smashed it. And I'll never forget. You remind Rob of this. They was telling me the story. They had a guy called Philip Legab. Sorry.
Nice.
Little twist of the words.
Yeah.
A well-known French angler who I've crossed swords with. He's one of those. He's one of those guys who always was very much a Frenchman. how can I say that without wishing to upset
every
any
French person in the
and
world.
I have a lot of French friends. There is an underlying arrogance amongst a lot of them.
Right.
You know that they're better than us or anyone else. You know, in particular, funny enough, with food and
Yeah,
wine.
yeah.
You know, they think they are the bollocks. Well, you know, I think that's all changing now. There's me getting their arse kicked with the wines, but he's that kind of traditional.
He's from
Frenchman.
that ilk. Yeah.
He's from that ilk. Yeah, and he was in the peg next to the boys, and I think when they first turned up, he asked them what they were using, Nash bait, and he said, "Oh, too expensive, blah blah." And at the end of the match, you know, after catching nothing, and well, ask Rob, they had loads of fish. He went up to them and said, "Oh, what was you using?" And Rob just opened his hand with a handful of solid balls and said, "Nash bait." Yeah, I'll never get that. But yeah, they was cock a hoop, and so they should be. Yeah.
It'll be an interesting conversation with Hughes. He's done a lot, but yeah, there's definitely some links back here.
He's a smart lad, Rob. You know, so I'm sure it's been absorbing podcast. I can't wait to listen to it. Yeah,
I'll definitely bring up some old Nash truths, and we'll see what he says about it.
Yeah, but you can probably tell some stories about me that I've forgotten.
We'll see, mate.
Yeah.
Kev, as ever, a massive thank you for coming in for this, and
pleasure.
we'll see you again.
Cool. Look forward to it.
Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. My guest today, one and only, Rob Hughes. Rob, thank you for coming in, mate.
Well, thanks for having me. Great to be over here.
How are you? What have you been up to?
All sorts. In the middle of the On the Bank filming season at the moment, so flat out filming.
Nice.
And when I say flat out, it is flat out filming. We'll film one day, we're editing, then delivering, and as soon as it's delivered, we're out and we're filming again. So, flat out.
You don't really do anything that's not flat out, mate. I know that. But I can appreciate the madness. I was thinking this before, trying to ask you, how would you describe yourself in terms of what you do, in terms of angling, at the current point that we're at now? That is difficult.
Cool, blimey. You know what? I think that is difficult, isn't it? God, why don't you throw a really hard one at me right at the beginning?
You do a lot. I thought, how do you define that?
What do you mean, in role or in job or in... Oh, Gordon Bennett. What do I do? I'm a carp angler.
Yeah, nice.
So, you know, the never lose track of the fact that ultimately, you know, I do all sorts of other things, but my baseline is I am a carp angler, and I'm exactly the same as every other carp angler out there. I think you can then probably add in, second up will be the TV presenter stroke angling ambassador.
Sure.
And I think that's the key role for me. I just want to bang the drum about angling.
Yeah.
You know, whatever angling you do, it's such a good sport, isn't it?
It's the best, isn't it, mate?
You know, everybody watching this knows that. You know this.
Yeah,
exactly. You know this anyway.
And if you don't know it, go.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's just banging the drum about angling. Whatever shape, whatever size, whatever duration, whatever you want to do, just go out and fish.
And when we were talking about this podcast, I sort of wanted to touch more on probably an area that I hadn't done so much research into, which is your actual angling pre-TV, BT, because obviously we've worked together a bit.
Yeah.
TV size, like latter part of your career and where we are now.
Yes.
But there's a whole host of stuff, pioneering stuff, lots of fishing, big fish captures, which we're going to talk about, mate.
I'm a lot older than I look, you know.
Well, it's that lovely hair, mate, and those fresh looks.
Talking about hair.
Let's take it back to your starting point in angling. So the very start, was it a family-based thing, or was it just a passion from the get-go?
You know, it was really weird. My mum and dad split up when I was very young,
right? So
I didn't have a father figure in my life generally, but I didn't have a father figure that would introduce me to angling.
Okay.
I haven't got any brothers or sisters. So as a result, I didn't have anybody that would introduce me to angling. And I just loved water.
Really?
So, yeah, I've just always been drawn to water, whether it's swimming in it, looking at it, walking by it. And I remember as a small boy, my extended family is from North Wales. I'm from a place called Oswestry on the Welsh borders.
Yeah.
And we would go every other weekend up there. And as you drove up there, my mum had an old 1973 Mini Clubman estate.
Oh.
And I used to love sitting in the boot on the way up.
The boot?
In the boot. You were allowed to sit in the boot in those days.
How big is the boot?
It's an estate car. I was only that big.
Yeah.
Anyway. And we'd go up there, and there was a little patch where we'd drive alongside the canal. Right. And I remember as long as I can ever remember, looking at the canal, loving this bit of canal. Whenever there was water, oh, there's a river, oh, there's a lake, oh, there's a canal. And I remember seeing this canal, and then suddenly there were blokes sat by the side of it under umbrellas, holding long poles and fishing rods, and I just thought, I want to have a go at that. I want to see what they're doing. And I think that was my first exposure to angling, and I just wanted to go.
That's cool, isn't it? That's pretty similar to me, really. You're just born with that. As I said, I was the same. I didn't have any real influences, but I just loved it.
Yeah.
It wasn't really water, it was probably fishing. So how, from that point, you've sort of, the spark's been lit. How does that transpire for you to actually get yourself some gear and get fishing?
Well, my mum, I lived with my mum and my nan.
Right.
And my uncle used to fish as well. My nan always used to buy my uncle, his mum, used to buy him fishing kit. So my nan bought me a second-hand fishing rod from a second-hand shop. I don't know, there's not many second-hand shops these days, but there used to be lots of second-hand shops. So there was a second-hand shop, and I was given this rod, and I had not got a clue what to do with it. Literally, no idea. You know, and I can imagine people coming into fishing now going, I get the idea, but I have not got a clue. If you go to Sport Direct and buy a ball, it doesn't take the brains of Einstein to work out that you stick it on the floor and you boot it, and then someone boots it back to you, and suddenly football's born. Yeah. But you know what? It's a little bit more difficult with fishing, isn't it? So I thought the best thing to do is go down the local pond, and we've sort of gone into the fishing tackle shop, bought a float and some stuff, and my mum's taken me down. She hadn't got a clue what to do either. And just had a go at that. And after God knows how long, eventually the float went under. And when I mean God knows how long, I'm not talking about minutes or hours. I'm talking weeks.
Really? Yeah. But you still loved it that much you kept going?
Just wanted to keep going. All I wanted to do was catch a fish.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Any fish at all.
First fish? What was it?
Gudgeon.
Oh, wow. It's classic.
Classic first fish.
That's classic.
And I can remember it like, as I'm sure we all can, I can remember it as if it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a place called Middleton Pool just outside Oswestry, which was enormous. It was a huge expanse of water, which is probably about 3/4 of an acre. And there was an area that they used to call Gudgeon Log. And there was a log that used to stick out in the water, and it was. I'll tell you how deep it was. I remember thinking it was really, really deep.
Yeah.
And I used to get caught on the log quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I'd have to go out, and I could just about, as a 6-year-old, get there without it going over my wellies.
No way.
But back in the day, it was really, deep. Really deep. So what would that be?
Yeah, nothing.
Maybe a foot deep.
Yeah.
Maybe a foot. And anyway, the float's gone under. I thought, I was stuck on the log again. I pulled it, and lo and behold, it was Gudgeon.
Gudgeon
that
log.
was it. I'm done.
That is pure class. That's like Redmire on the old Gudgeon matches on the branch, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So many people's first fish is a roach and a perch. But
yeah,
it was Gudgeon for me.
Yeah, class.
Took
Salmon par, I'd think, Rob. And then obviously, progression-wise, you've gone through angling. When did the whole carp buzz? When did you catch your first carp? When did that all come to fruition?
In where I was in Shropshire, there wasn't a lot of carp fishing, although there is a reasonable amount of it going back old school wise. But these were on the big meres.
Yeah.
Now you've got to remember, as a little boy, a big mere is just, it's completely out of the picture.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a village pond, and it is the archetypal. Wow, there's a carp story. There's a little village pond. Yeah. And it is a traditional Shropshire village, Y-shaped road, pond in the middle there.
Wow.
And there were great rudd in it, and there was 1 or 2 tench in it, and there was probably, I would think, half a dozen carp.
Yeah.
And if they were 6, 7, 8 pound, that would probably be it. But it was the shadows on the surface.
Yeah.
And you'd see, and I just thought, I don't want to catch one of them. I've got to catch one of them. I was just desperate to catch one of them, and didn't. And literally just didn't. And it didn't matter what we tried, we just didn't.
Yeah.
But that pricked my interest with carp fishing from about 10. And then I think I first started catching carp when I was about 13. I remember going on holiday to Devon to a place called New Barnes Farm. Right. There's another place called Upham Farm. There were 2 places that had little fisheries down there, and catching them at sort of 2, 3, 4 pound, which again, as a nipper, that was a big fish.
Oh yeah.
Floating bread crust, all the old traditional story, all of that.
Because I was going to say, like, influence-wise, probably like my generation, you had sort of Go Fishing, you had various sort of angling publications to sort of reference.
Yeah.
For you, all that sort of discovering how to catch them, was that all just off your own back? And
more or less, it was books. Yeah. Back then there was the Angling Times, of course, but it didn't used to have a lot of carp coverage. We're going back to late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. Obviously, I think there's 2 really iconic moments for me, and people talk about Walker as being iconic.
Yeah.
But to me, Walker was an old man. When I was young, Walker was an old man. So although he was an enormous influence in 1980, when I was just first starting to look at the fact that carp existed, Walker was an old boy. Chris Yates suddenly was this cool bloke with the long hair, and he caught this thing from Redmire Pool that was £50.
That makes the hairs on the
51.
back of my neck stand up just listening to it, man.
And just seeing that, thinking, wow, just look at that. And then as I sort of developed more interest in carp, the problem was that there weren't any by me, and it was really hard to get to them on a push bike.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're a little bit restricted. So my carp world opened up properly, I think, when I was 16, because I got a moped. And the moped allowed me then to get to Ellesmere, which people may have heard of. And there's a few meres in Shropshire that had some really, really old scaly carp in. You know, they go back as long can be. And Shropshire back then was a really, really secretive place.
Really?
We didn't talk about it. Yeah, the one rule of Shropshire is you don't talk about Shropshire. It literally was Fight Club.
What happens in Shropshire stays in Shropshire.
We don't like anybody from outside of Shropshire.
I can see that.
So you know, there were these mythical meres with these mythical fishing, and having a moped allowed me to get there. It was 8 miles, and there was a bloody big hill in between Oswestry and Ellesmere, and a push bike meant it was very difficult. So I started fishing the meres, and you'll have heard of Fenimere, you'll have heard of the Mangrove, you'll have heard of Birch Grove, you know, all of these places.
Yeah.
It was the opportunity to start experiencing carp, and then.
So how did you get to know about those places? Just through the sort of scene?
Just local circuit.
Yeah.
Just local circuit, because they were the big lakes. And of course, you know, the carp are going to be in the big lakes, aren't they? So you go to the big lakes, and Blakemere was one that was very popular at the time as well. And going down there and talking to carp anglers who didn't want to talk to you. You know, I'm a 14-year-old boy, and they're looking at me going, have a think about it. And
you just punish them?
Completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally. And if they ignored me, I sat a safe distance away and watched them. Literally, I stalked carp anglers from the age of about 40, just sitting there watching. And in the end, that really annoying kid would be back again. You again? Yeah. Caught anything? I haven't even seen anything. You know, and it was cool to see something, let alone catch anything.
Yeah.
It was back then. It was so hard. It was almost uncool to catch something.
Really?
Yeah. You had to punish yourself.
I was born in the wrong time.
Yeah, by going through so long, not actually. And when you did catch one, then that was it. And then, so that was the progression there. And then I started fishing in Cheshire. I bumped into a guy when I was in college in 1987. I was studying law.
Yeah.
And I went to Chester College up there, and I got my bag out at lunchtime and started reading the Angling Times. And another lad said, "Oh, you fish, do you?" And I said, "Yeah." He went, "What do you fish for?" And I went, "Well, don't laugh, but I fish for carp." He went, "Well, me too."
Yeah.
And like in the area, there weren't many of us around. And Oswestry is a prime example. Let me tell you now that there were 2 carp anglers.
Really?
Within about a 10-mile radius of quite a big town. Now, there are loads and loads and loads of carp anglers there.
Yeah.
You know, Dean from Total Carp in Shrewsbury, he's from Oswestry as well.
Nigel Woodcock from
Nigel
here.
Woodcock, yeah. You know, loads and loads and loads of people, but there were 2 of us.
Yeah.
And the other one was really, really secretive and didn't want to talk to me. And there was a local pit that had some wild fishing up there. And I remember doing 21 nights before I caught one.
Oh, wow.
And I eventually caught it. It was £11, 10 ounces. It just,
Yeah.
you know, and these were old wildies.
Yeah,
and
magical.
Just the carp scene has changed very much.
Yeah.
But back then, you know, I won't use keep it real because I'm not demeaning anybody's different views on any different fish. But back then, those Shropshire fish were particularly special because that was it. You know, you'd only got old mahogany antiques to fish for.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And that's what I fished for.
Yeah.
And it was really, really interesting. But I went up to Cheshire, met this lad, and there's a place called Winsford. And anybody that's in Winsford and will remember the old Winsford specimen group, you'll know how tight the clique was there because Cheshire had more carp than Shropshire, but they were equally as secretive.
Yeah.
And anybody from inside the area didn't like anybody from outside the area.
Just very territorial, isn't it?
Massively. You know, there was as much chance of getting into trouble on the banks of carp lakes then as there was at the football. And remember, in the 80s, football was quite rough.
That is saying something.
But you got Reedsmere, you got Capesthorne, you got Top Flash, you got Bottom Flash. And I remember this lad saying, "Why don't you come up and fish with us?" So I went up to see him because it was a new place to go, and I got in with the Winsford crowd and started fishing a place called Top Flash back in, I think it'd be 89, 90.
Wow.
And again, you know, these were phenomenal old carp back then. And it was the birth of when Premier came in, the fish meals first. And there was a young lad up there, probably, he was a little bit older, he was probably 4 or 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
And he really, really caught a lot, and he was putting a lot of bait in. And there was a guy called Bernie Loftus, who
I know Bernie Loftus.
you know,
yeah, what
a
legend.
Northwest legend at the time, caught everything up there. And it was also interesting that there was a lad who was a year or two younger that was sniffing around as well, who turned out he just got it straight away. You could see it. And we knew each other, or we saw each other, and there's a begrudging little bit of respect.
Yeah.
But it was a guy called Roger Bacon.
Yeah.
Who,
Rog
if
as
you
well.
know now, he is just a phenomenal angler.
Yeah,
An
brilliant
absolutely
angler.
phenomenal angler.
Does really well on Granville, doesn't it?
Just he had a 28-pound pike yesterday, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he did, yeah.
Yeah. Just he's a you know, as a carp angler, I put Roger up there as one of the best anglers in the country.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't necessarily court publicity. He just goes
No.
out and does his thing, but he is phenomenally good as an angler.
Yeah.
And if he wants to catch carp, then he catches carp.
Breeding ground of a lot of good anglers, that northwest sort of Cheshire, Meary style.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, we used to laugh about it, but, you know, I didn't see gravel until 1990, I think it was, 91. I remember driving down, because like Foxpool, Rob Malin was one of my heroes. I remember reading Foxpool thinking, I want to go to the Colne Valley one day.
Yeah, of course.
And the lad that I used to fish up in Cheshire with, and we both decided that we were going to come down to the Colne Valley. We were going to fish Farlows, as it was.
Wow.
When it was one lake rather than the two that it is now. And we're driving down there. And I remember as we're getting there, this is how stupid I was. I've leaned forward in the footwell to put my foot further in, so I can be first into the Colne Valley.
You're joking.
No, mate, it was a big thing.
It is.
It was a big thing. So it was like, whoa, I got in the Colne Valley. I got there before you.
I've done it. Yeah, the Colne Valley. What place? Do you remember this? Are you still in contact with the chap that you were at uni with and that you started fishing up there with?
He gave up fishing, bless him. Yeah, he gave up because he was doing legal studies as well. And actually, unfortunately, when you qualify as a solicitor, life takes you in a different direction. So
there's a bit of work to do,
Yeah, so he went that way, whereas I decided to go this way instead.
What are your early sort of experiences? What was the scene like in terms of, you said that there was some sketchy moments potentially, but also captures, anything really significant stand out there?
Yeah, just, you know, loads and loads and loads. Fishing just as a young lad, going on to Treetops, as it was nicknamed, but Top Flash at the time. You know, that was probably the main lake in the northwest. So if you think of what Save was like back then, then for us northerners, the Top Flash, I never got to fish Reedsmere. I fished Capesthorne, but I never fished Reedsmere. But Reedsmere was an area. And if you look at the likes of the anglers that cut their teeth on there, Pete and Ian, phenomenal. Frank Warwick is the one I was going to end up with, but as you've named it, you know, he's probably the highest profile angler on there. Phenomenal angler. Look at Scott and Sean as well. You know, incredibly good anglers. There's a lot of immensely good anglers from the northwest that actually come down south. And I'm not going to go in with the who's the best argument because it's just different fishing. Yeah. But the understanding that we had to have up there, because there weren't as many fish, was very different. You know, we'd look at the likes of what was going on in Kent and the Colne Valley and Yateley to a degree as well, and just think, wow, we'd just love to have that opportunity, let alone catch them.
Exactly.
Just have the opportunity to be able to fish for those, because they just weren't around.
Yeah. So,
but no, it was an amazing time. And, you know, lots of people talk about when's the best time to have been carp fishing? Is it the best time now? And I will stand by this, because my answer tomorrow will be exactly the same as today, and it will be yesterday, that today is the best time for carp fishing. Yeah, because you've got now. Yeah. You didn't have. No. Or you haven't got what you used to have anymore. Yeah. So remember it fondly, but now is the time. Yeah. You know, don't, it's not as good as it used to be. Well, make the most of what you got now. Yeah. Or just
I like
give
that.
up. Now's the best time.
Yeah, in the present.
But I think if I could have the choice as to when I grew up with it, if you look at, you know, in the 1920s and 30s, when you got sort of Otto Overbeck and, you know, the very, very original pioneers looking for carp, Mapley Reservoir and all of that, the old historic stuff. Yeah. That would have been amazing, just trying to show that you can catch carp. Yeah. Then you've got the Leany era of carp being available. Then you've got Walker, and you've also got the Redmire era. That would have been phenomenal, because that was shaping it. But for me, the boom of the late 80s, early 90s, through to the late 90s was just an amazing decade. Mad. It was pre-commercialism. It was pre-internet. It was pre-social media. Yeah. But it was really, really happening, and it was so vibrant. You know, Kent was really good. Then you look at the Colne Valley, then you look at the Yateley area, then you look at the Reading corridor. And then you look at what was happening in the northwest as well. It was an amazing time to be growing through.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Some anglers.
So,
You seen it there. You talked about the sort of use of fish meals and the started use of fish meals. So
yes.
in that time when you were up there studying, I'm guessing, I've never done a law degree, but I'm guessing it's some serious work that's involved in that. Your progressions, obviously you saw fish meals come into play, bait, I'm guessing tackle improved over that course of time, and just general knowledge.
Yeah, there was loads of stuff. You know, I think one of the biggest things that helped was actually the road system got better.
Really?
And that sounds daft, but you guys have grown up with motorways.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was around before the A34, just as a prime example, and it was a real pain in the backside from the west of England going up and down it.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, when the M54 was built, that was brilliant as well because it allowed you to get around a lot more. So, you know, logistically being able to move is one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the growth of the amount of fish that are available is a big one too. You know, irrespective of where they're from and what they are, the fact that there are so many more available now is so much better. Going back to 1992, and well, I'll step back actually to 1990 now.
Yeah.
Meeting Crowie.
Yeah.
That was a real pivotal part. It's like ant meeting Deck for the first time.
So
Isn't
how
it?
did that come about then?
Well, I was working for a firm of solicitors in Oswestry as I was doing my studies.
Okay, so that's part of your studies.
So, yeah, I basically, when you train to be a solicitor, there's two ways that you can do it. You can either go to university, study a law degree, then you can go to law school, get your Law Society finals qualifications, then you do a 2-year apprenticeship in the office. And then when you've done that, so it takes 7 years, when you've done that, then you're qualified, so you can start.
Yeah.
The other alternative was the old school way, which is you start in the office, and you work your way up and you go on day release for the first few bits, eventually get your degree while you're studying, and then you go away to law school to do your finals.
Yeah.
And then when you've passed your finals, you don't need to do your apprenticeship, you've qualified.
Yeah.
So I did the old school way.
Okay.
So back in 1990, there was a big conveyancing boom and basically house prices went mad. All lawyers were being pulled just to do conveyancing, buying and selling houses. Yeah. And there was a shortage of the sort of people that did what I do, which is litigation. And for those of you that don't know, litigation is basically going to court and arguing with people. Right. Hence the reason that I tend to talk the hind legs off a donkey, but I like a row.
Yeah?
So
I like a row.
I used to like it. I don't like a row so much now. I basically got headhunted by a firm, even as a trainee, and they said, look, will you like to come and work for us in Wolverhampton? And I said, not really, I like it where I am. And they went, well, come and have an interview. And I went there and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I went there.
Result.
So happy days, career is on a good path. I'm now working for a big firm in a big city. It's all looking really good. But I didn't know anybody there. So having gone there, not knowing anybody at all, the first port of call is the fishing tackle shop.
Good.
So
cool.
I've gone to the fishing tackle shop in my lunchtime to buy my rod license, as we used to buy rod license in the shops then. Excuse me. So I've gone to the fishing tackle shop to buy my rod license, and lo and behold, the Wednesday lad is in there. And me and the Wednesday lad have hit it off straight away. We've just got on like a ice on fire. He was studying sports at Stafford College at the time, doing his A-levels. I was doing my solicitor's work. And I said, look, I'm looking for someone to fish. And he went, to be honest, mate, you seem like a half-decent bloke. If you want, I'll guest you on my syndicate. So he took me on a syndicate, being the nice fella he is. Yeah. And then I got a place in the syndicate, and that was it. So that was how Hughes met Crow.
You're very like, were you polar opposites back then in terms of, I sort of see Crowie as like, this is no disrespect to Crowie, I've been fishing with him and acting, and we were talking about some stories with you two, which we'll get onto. But he's a very different character to you in terms of, I see he's quite like diplomatic, quite level, even though you like a row, whereas Crowie can be sometimes he's very forthright and quite fiery sometimes.
He can be quite blunt. And
blunt's a good word.
He can be quite blunt. It was quite funny when we used to do the day ticket series with Carp World. Somebody would walk down the bank and he'd see them coming and he'd zip himself in his bivvy.
Really?
Whereas I'd stay out and have a chat with him and do that. And he's like, have they gone yet? I nearly swore then, but people coming along, blah blah blah. So he's not necessarily a people's person. But,
even back then,
it never has been.
Yeah,
never has been. But phenomenally good angler, really good angler, and I think that's why we hit it off. Because actually, as crazy as it sounds, we fish very very similarly, and
really?
we do fish very very similarly. We're grown up on watercraft.
Yeah.
As as a first thing, and watercraft might be something we can touch on later. How watercraft has changed, because people talk about watercraft, but just as carp fishing's changed, watercraft has changed now, and the watercraft that we had in the past isn't necessarily the watercraft that you need now, because it's a very, very different world now.
Yeah.
But we started fishing together, and he used to. We had our little heroes then.
Yeah.
As young whippersnapper carp anglers in our late teens and early 20s. And my hero was Frank Warwick.
Yeah.
Because I've always been into colour in particular, but also coming from the Northwest, Frank was the man.
Of course.
And he was responsible really for developing fluoro pop-ups and single bait fishing and all of that. And I used to love doing that.
Yeah.
And Frank was a bit of a hero of mine, so I used to occasionally get in touch with Frank.
Really? How did you get in touch then?
Well, we used to see each other at shows. There was the Middleton Specimen Group up in Manchester, and there was the Winsford Specimen Group, and
Used to meet there.
places like that. And just
those stories that Frank tells of like early days, single fluoros cast into the middle of Reedsmere.
Just
and,
amazing.
It's just brilliant.
It was so alien to what everybody thought about fishing. Frank is sticking out a bright pink or a bright luminous yellowy green thing on its own in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he's catching fish in it. He's never going to catch on that. We've got a high nutritional value 6-egg mix of boilies. This will really slay him. And then Frank goes and knocks 4 out.
Yeah.
And you just think, blimey. But just stepping back, Crowey's hero was Julian Cundiff. So,
no way,
yeah,
Jules,
yeah.
I didn't know this.
So he used to write to Julian all the time. So,
Did he?
and there was a piece, I think he'd read something, and I think it was in Carp Fisher.
Yeah.
Because Jules was either involved in the editorial or he was the editor of something or other. I think it was Carp Fisher at the time. And there was a feature in there that we disagreed with, and it was about line angles.
Okay.
And it was clear, I can't even remember who wrote it, but it was clear that whoever wrote it had never done it and was talking a complete and utter load of horse shit.
Really?
Yeah. And I remember sitting on the banks of Worgs Hall with Crowey at the time, and he's like, have you seen that? Yeah, load of bollocks. Don't believe any of it. Anyway, he wrote to Jules and said he didn't agree with it. And I think Jules, I might be fogged a little bit with time, but the gist of it is that he wrote to Jules and said that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Jules wrote back and said, if you think you can do better, then crack on, son. So Crowey wrote a feature.
Wow.
About what he thought was better with line anglers, and it was published.
Yeah.
So it's like, blimey, Crowey's had a feature published. That's amazing. And he went, well, it's not that difficult, actually. Having done it, he's just got in touch with someone. There used to be a closed season. Rewind the story a little bit. There used to be a closed season, and there were only certain places that you could fish. And really, it was pushing the boundaries a little bit, because you could do something called any method trout fishing. So Sapphire Lake in the north, Farlows, Broadlands, what they used to do was they'd stick half a dozen trout in.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to cast out with boilies and fish for the trout, then you could do.
Yeah. Token gesture of trout.
Absolutely. So I wanted to go trout fishing in the closed season with Crowey.
Yeah.
You were allowed to fish in Cornwall at the time. Southwest Water had a different rule, so you could fish there.
Yeah.
And it's why people used to go to Ireland all the time, because you could course fish in Ireland. But he said, should we go to Cornwall? And I went, that's too far and we can't afford it. So I said, I'd like to go to Sapphire, which was a lot closer, and he'd never been there. And we got in touch, and this is the eminence of day tickets at the time. It was £3 a day and £4 a night. So it was £7 for a 24-hour session.
Wow.
And we wanted to do 2 days. So that would have been £14. Now, with the fuel each way,
That's pricey.
It would have been a £5 as well on top. So it was going to be the thick end of £20 each for a weekend session. And neither of us could afford it.
Yeah.
We were literally both skinned. I'd just moved away from home on my studies, earning threepence a week.
Right.
And I literally just hadn't got any money. Absolutely skinned.
Yeah.
Crowey was a student living at home, not earning anything other than what he earned in the tackle shop on a Wednesday, and that went on fishing tackle anyway. He was absolutely skinned. So we thought, we can't afford it. So we came up with an idea of doing a review of day tickets.
Nice.
So the idea was, because Crowey's already had a feature published here.
He's got a way in, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's famous. So back then, a lot of the magazine features used to be about how great you are. So you'd write about how many 20s you'd caught. There was a little bit of technical, but it was more stories about the session type piece, which is interesting because now it sort of evolved back to stories.
Yeah.
But back then it was all about stories. It was a little bit of technical, but there was nowhere to go stuff. So I looked at it and I just thought, actually, there's a gap in the market there. Nowhere does it say where you can go. because I wanted to go somewhere but couldn't think of where to go. And I thought, why don't we see if we can put a guide together about day ticket lakes, places that people can go and fish by just paying a price.
Roughly what year is this, Rob?
92.
So how prevalent are day ticket lakes in 92?
There was probably, Orchid was around.
Oh, yeah.
Broadlands was around. Waveney Valley was around. Sapphire, Farlows.
You count them on two hands, basically.
Yeah, there may have been a dozen.
Wow.
In the country. And I remember thinking there's an opportunity here. So we literally just put a questionnaire list. Where is it? How do you get there? How much does it cost? What the facility's like? How do you fish it? And I got in touch with Tim Paisley, who was editing Carp World, and said, I've got an idea for a series of features. This is what we're thinking about doing. And he went, send one in, we'll have a look. So it's like, blimey, we're committed now. So we've gone up to Sapphire Lakes. I've rung them up first. And I've said, look, we're writing a story for Carp World about this. And Eunice, bless her, that was the owner there at the time, she said, oh, lovely, you can have your fishing for nothing. We'll even throw a breakfast in.
Oh, brilliant.
And that was it then.
I can't imagine Crowie doing that negotiation. Be like, I'm coming up to fish for free.
Yeah. Well, we were over the moon because we thought if we're lucky, we might get free fishing there. And when she said she'd throw a breakfast in as well, this was going to save us the thick end of 15 quid each.
Yeah.
Which to us was enormous.
That's a lot of money.
That was huge. So we've gone up there and done that, sent it in, and Tim's read it. He's going, I quite like that. So can you do me 3? And we'll run a little mini series.
Yes, I can.
So we then did Pool Hall in Wolverhampton. That was another one. And then Crowie did Tamar Lake. There's 2 others that I forgot about. So Tamar, which was down in Cornwall. Yeah. He'd been down there before, and I think we started in the September, so it was like November, December time when Tim wanted the next one. Wow. It's like, blimey, where do we go? So we did Tamar. And then I thought of another one, Willow Park. That was another day ticket that was around. So that, there weren't lots and lots and lots of them. And I remember thinking, wow, we've got 3. And then after the first one was published, Tim said, this is just brilliant. He said, we've had more feedback off this than anything else for ages. Keep going. We'll take them as long as you want to do them.
Wow.
And that was it. So we used to hack around the country, just visiting day tickets.
Just living the dreams, fishing, and you funded it.
It was amazing. It was all weekend stuff as well, because I was working, so I'd pick Crowie up from his house at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. We'd do battle with the M6.
Oh, yeah.
Going all the way down to Broadlands, I remember, from Birmingham or from Wolverhampton, going all the way down to Broadlands was a long old trek.
I bet.
And I remember absolutely every single time, religiously, before we started fishing, we'd always walk the lake.
Yeah.
So you walk the lake first, check your location out, and we left at 6 o'clock. We might get down there at 9, 10 o'clock at night. By the time you've walked around, it's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. You're setting up.
November, December,
tough, really, really, really tough.
Did you ever have a shocker on any of those, or did you always manage to?
No, we almost always caught.
Wow.
Almost always caught. It was, it was because we were absolutely on it.
Yeah.
Back then, really, really hungry. If I had to move 3 times in the night, I'd move 3 times in the night. That was it, and it was all about just getting that bite. So it really honed our carp fishing. Really, really did hone our carp fishing. But I remember walking around with Crowie. It was quite funny. We've gone around Broadlands, and we've not had many rows, but we had an absolute humdinger.
Here we go.
Oh, right, we are. Kath, my then girlfriend, now wife, actually came down with us as well, and she was really worried because she thought we were going to start tearing 7 bells out.
Full on fisticuffs.
Full on fisticuffs. Yeah, we were nose to nose.
No, I can't imagine this. What's happened here then, Rob?
We both wanted the same peg. That was it.
The competitive streak.
It was horrendous. Right. Well, you had last choice. You had first choice last time. No, you didn't. I did. And that was it. And it really, really, very nearly went off to the extent that she had to get between us. Like, lads, calm down. It's only a peg. So,
she had to get between you.
Yeah.
That is out of hand. Did you both catch in the end?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, well, that's all right then.
Yeah, I remember I had one at the time. It was one of the good ones out of there, and this was the first time that we'd seen really decent fish records. Mark Simmons was running it.
Wow!
And he's rocked up just as I'm landing a fish called Teo, and it was £18 10 ounces. And I'm useless at remembering fish, and I'm useless at remembering weights, but I really remember that one. It's a real standout fish.
Got a photo of it?
Somewhere, yeah. I got.
See if we can dig them out and overlay it.
Yeah, I got long hair, curly.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Frightening hairstyle.
That is what it's all about. What were the carpy trends at the time?
Well, PVA, solid PVA bags.
Oh, yeah.
Was just coming out then. The Brat Pack down in the early 90s down there. So, you needed a Plum Royale Richworth pop-up or a toot over the top of a big solid PVA bag. So, yeah, that was that there.
And how did that series sort of evolve? Because obviously, from that point, realistically, day ticket fisheries sort of spiked. There started to be more and more and more of them.
Yeah, well, it was one of these perfect storm things, really, because there were lots of things that were happening at the same time. You know, carp fishing was growing. There were more places that got them. It was getting a little bit busier, and people saw that there was commercial opportunity with them rather than just as a fish in a club lake.
Yeah.
And you know, syndicates. There were one or two syndicates, but very, very few, because that was too big a step then. But there were clubs that were hard to get into. There were normal clubs where they'd put carp in, and then suddenly there was this commercial side where it was a case of let's start doing day tickets. But it was there's so many funny stories about it. Like the Orchid is a prime example. You know, we've had a long-term love affair with Orchid.
Yeah.
And Paul Bray used to run it before Marsh bought it. And I remember he was 14. We used to take the mickey out of him for having a bad back. And Paul, bless him, he's in France now. He's a lovely fella, but he was a little bit work shy.
Right, okay.
He probably won't thank me for saying that, but it wasn't his venue. He was doing it for someone else. So we used to like collecting the money and doing the maintenance, but he didn't actually like doing an awful lot of work on it.
No.
Lovely, lovely fella though.
Yeah.
And he always used to complain about his back. He was getting on my back, all this, that, and the other. So we used to take the mickey out of him. And we thought I can't remember, when did Carp Talk start? We started writing something called Midlands Mumblings. That was 93, 94
it's
maybe.
Early 90s, isn't it?
So anyway, early 90s, we're doing one of our day ticket reports, and we're talking about Paul Bray, the old boy, who's actually, don't tell anyone, but been catching quite a lot of fish on parboiled spuds.
Really?
Just taking the mickey.
On the potatoes.
And lo and behold, he went, you're not going to believe it, you pair of knobs. Loads of people have come down here with tinned potatoes.
No, they haven't.
Yeah. And we couldn't believe it. And he went, he said, I've been pestered with people using tinned potatoes.
You should have got shares in potatoes.
Mate, should have got shares in peas and carrots, because I wrote on the back, this is the following week, on the back of potatoes now having been blown on Orchid, the clever guys are now on carrots and peas.
Oh.
And he went, you are a pair of idiots,
bad.
because actually people are turning up now with tins of carrots and peas. Yeah, but it got even last week. Actually, I had a mail. You know, one of the great things about social media is you're a lot more accessible. So I get loads and loads of messages, and a few people say, "Oh yeah, saw this, liked it, saw that. You might remember me from here, whatever."
Yeah.
And I got one the other day saying we used to follow you around on the day tickets all the time, and it became a real cult following that Carp World would come out, and there would be people that would perhaps fish once a month, but they didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
So what they'd do is they'd go to wherever the day ticket lake was. And it was amazing. So it just carried on and on and on.
That's a whole scene within a scene, isn't it?
It was amazing, yeah. And I'd like to think that it was sort of responsible to a degree about the growth of the day ticket scene. But it was amazing. But it was quite funny because, you know, I have the that fish don't count argument.
Yeah.
And back then, if you were in a club, then you caught a big fish. Then you know the club lake fish counted, but day ticket fish didn't count they were for noddies.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you only fish day tickets every day. And it used to be an insult. If I call you day ticket, then it's actually an insult because you obviously can't fish proper lakes. You only go to day ticket lakes that are overstocked and harder. So, you know, the hierarchy and battering of people for whatever reason has been going on a long, long time.
That's funny.
But,
It's mad how things change and come full circle and everything else over time.
Well, the thing is now, if you catch it from a private syndicate, then it doesn't count because obviously it's not open access. So it's almost a diametrically opposite to what it is. And, you know, if you start a campaign and you catch your target fish early, it doesn't count.
No.
Because you're lucky. But if you bore it out over a long period of time, then you've just bored it out. So it doesn't really count because you're time.
You've got to do it in the middle somewhere, haven't you?
Got to do it in the middle.
Yeah.
But if you fish a day ticket, it doesn't count because it's a day ticket. And if it's an exclusive syndicate, that doesn't count
that
either.
Doesn't count.
No. If you work in a trade, there's no chance because you get free bait or tackle or discounted stuff.
You're piling in the bait day in, day out.
If you're fishing, it used to be midweek. You know, if you fish midweek, then actually that don't count because it's an advantage.
Weekend only.
So you basically got to catch a fish in a reasonable amount of time, not too quick, not too late, from a club lake at a weekend.
Yeah. On a
Otherwise,
Saturday.
Don't count.
No, that's
Simple
fair.
as that. Yeah. Not off the top either because that never used to count. Or on
off
zigs.
The top didn't count.
No.
It's prestige off the top now.
Doesn't count.
Wow.
Bread bombs. It's not carp fishing.
Yeah,
Don't count. Alan, you've had it. Alan, bread bombs.
Discredit everything.
Nothing counts, mate. He's had it. Yeah. Alan's had it.
That's all his fish, bread
bombs. Well, he
bombs.
works in the tackle industry. He gets to fish lots of different places. He fishes on bread bombs. In the week as well.
Unbelievable.
Gone. All of it.
Nothing. He wouldn't be what he is.
No.
We touched a little bit on Orchid Lakes, and fittingly, or not so fittingly, on a somber note, obviously this week when we're filming this, a couple of days ago, Marsh unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
So a bit of a nod to him. What sort of memories did you have when Marsh came to take the place on? Because obviously he had an affinity with the place.
Yeah, he I think he says in his book, we were two of the people he spoke to first about it, because he knew that both myself and Crowe were there quite a lot. Excuse me, and he became a really, really good friend.
Yeah,
he was a lovely bloke. He's like a bull in a bloody china shop most of the time, you know. And whether it was work on the lake or what he did, or I'm going to sort the Carp Society out, or I'm going to sort Orchid Lake out, he went at it at 150%. He was an incredible force. He was a force of nature. That, you know, there's forces, but a force of nature you can't stop. And when the juggernaut that was Marsh Pratley rolled at you, it was happening, whether you liked it or not.
Really?
He was a phenomenal bloke. Yeah, I'm welling up a little bit thinking about it, but lovely guy.
Lovely bloke. Well, yeah, love to and thoughts to all family and loved ones concerned there. But yeah, what a place Orchid Lake still is, and he's put it on the map. Oxford, incredible.
Absolutely, you know, and it's what can you say about Orchid? You know, it's phenomenal fishing. It's got some great fish in it. And there's loads and loads of good fisheries out there. You know, there's lots of places that are going through a renaissance. I think Orchid's had a bit of a renaissance because it went through the doldrums a little bit. Yeah. And then if you look at Farlows, what's happening there now? You know, those fish are phenomenal at Farlows. There's so many good venues out there now. Ridiculous. We're spoiled with the amount of fishing that we've
massively got. So, and especially on day tickets, like you're saying, it's unbelievable the day ticket complexes that are available to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable. Let's talk back with regards to you and Crowe. So you and Crowe have gone from day ticket series. It's fair to say that you two, as a pioneering pair, sort of did a lot abroad. So France, America, South Africa. I'm trying to think there's other places that you two have been in the realms of that. How did that drive to get out and sort of spread your wings across the sea?
It's Rod Hutchinson's fault. Originally, yeah. So just rewinding back to childhood. Sorry, everybody, for boring you all with oldish stuff, but I would be. It's
not boring, mate. It's brilliant.
I would be 16 years old.
Yeah.
And the Angling Times came out, and there was a picture of Rod Hutchinson with a carp from Cassein on a lilo, and it is that iconic shot. And I remember seeing that shot, and there's pictures. There's good pictures, and then there's moving pictures, you know, just ones that I call them take your breath away pictures. Yeah. And it might be a scenic. I mean, just as a prime example, how many carp photographs have you seen?
Millions.
You know, whether you're exposed to them in magazines,
now
social
on Instagram,
media.
and it's just ridiculous.
But every now and again, one stops you.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? And Rod's pictures stopped me. And I remember looking at that going, wow, I'm going there. I'm 16 years old.
Wow.
I'm going there. And I didn't know where it was for a start. I knew it was in France, but it's like, wow, that's phenomenal. I'm going there.
Yeah.
And then when I was 17, I passed my driving test. I think I passed it in the November, and the following April, May. I thought, right, I'm off there. So this would be 88, I suppose. So happy days. I'm off to Cassein. So I've got my car, I've got my licence, I've sorted out my foreign insurance, I've got my French map, because you had to buy a map then, and actually just having a map of France was quite tricky. You know, you had to go to WH Smith's and buy the map.
Big WH Smith's.
Cassein. Didn't know where it was. There wasn't much information about where it was, so I've heard that it's somewhere near Cannes, so I'm trying to find where Cannes is. Yeah. And then you realise actually it's right at the wrong end of the map.
Exactly.
And it's going to take, because the motorways weren't there in France back then either. And it's asked Briggsy about his trips there in the early days. He went there in his Cortina, didn't he?
Yes, well, he did. It was one of the last pods that we did. Yeah. Pod. Incredible.
So I remember thinking, I'm going there. And then looking at it on a map and thinking, I've only just passed my test.
This is big.
So yeah, I've not driven very much in England, let alone in France. So I thought I might be biting off a bit more than I can chew. So going back to Neil, my mate from Cheshire, we decided we were going to go, and somebody that was in the Winsford Specimen Group knew where Rod Hutchinson was fishing at the time, and he'd moved on from Cassein, and he was fishing a lake called Boulay, which was nicknamed Cannonball Lake, going back and that was in the northwest of France. So it was, Rod's moved off Cassein now, but he's fishing somewhere in the north. Let's see if we can find out where it was. And we found out really early on where this was, and there's two lakes, Boulay and Tremlin, that were close to each other, and it was like, where's that on the map? And when it was that far down the map, as opposed to that far down the map, we thought, we'll go that one.
I'll take that, yeah.
So went over there, and it was just such an adventure. going over there. You know, there weren't even French carp anglers really then. There was a few, but not many. And going over there was incredible. And we went over and struggled for a few days. The fish were spawning. They were in a no-fishing bay. And we got talking to somebody, I can speak French fortunately, so I got talking to somebody that said there's another lake not too far from here that is also really good for carp. You might want to try there. So we went down there, and as we're walking around the corner, we've seen a bloke on a deck chair carp fishing. And it was like, wow, there's a carp angler over there. And it was a French carp angler.
Right.
So going back to the public lakes back in the late 80s, early 90s, if you found a French carp angler, you knew you were in the right place.
Right.
So we found this French carp angler, started talking. It was a guy called Frank Martin who's still involved in the scene now. And there was another guy called Bertrand Picard that was there who's gone on. He was the European director for Fox, actually, fairly recently. So, you know, amazing these guys who you meet. I met him in 88. Turns out that he's come on, you know, a lot further up the ladder now. But we went fishing there, and it was just phenomenal.
Really?
And made friends with this guy called Frank.
Yeah.
And he'd got another mate called Jackie. It's a really, really long and contrived story, this, but we kept going out there. And in 91, he told me about a lake, and everybody tries to claim this, but actually those of us that were around at the time know the reality of it. It's almost like everybody that you speak, oh, of course, I was in the SAS.
Yeah.
Load of rubbish. You know, the guys that were in it. Those that were in it know what the score was at the time.
And they don't tell people that they were in it.
No, and you know, I know the score with this particular lake, and I'll tell you the name in the future, but I've seen so many stories about I was the first on there, I knew all this and that and the other about it.
Right.
And I just think, oh, God, here we go. But actually, Jackie lived in Paris, and he'd heard about this really, really big lake where it's possible to go and catch 5 to 10 30-pound fish in the evening or in a night. It's like, wow, really?
Yeah.
You know, that can't be true. And we just didn't believe that it was right. And Frank had told me about it. He said, if you fancy coming, then we're going this September, but next spring, why don't you come? And it was Chanticock.
No.
And
Wow.
so Jackie was one of the very early French pioneers on Shanty. And that was a really, really good learning curve for me, because back then I had the opportunity of going to Shanty before anybody knew about it.
Okay.
But because I was fishing on the western side of France on these other lakes, and living on the western side of the country, if you stay west, it's a lot easier to stay west. So our crossing was booked to go over the following year from Portsmouth to Saint Malo, which is a western side crossing. Now, Saint Malo to Paris is a long way, going back that way. So, you know, you go Dover-Calais if you're going east, and you go Portsmouth if you're going west. So we booked the ferry crossing in advance. So I said, I can't come this time, but the next time I cross, we'll go that way. And lo and behold, it turned out to be true. Wow. And then by the time we got there, it had already blown, because it was too good to be true. And it was a really, really interesting learning curve, that.
I bet.
Because if you hear about anywhere and you have the opportunity to go there, go there.
Yeah.
Be the first there. And I thought, you know what, I'm never going to miss that opportunity again. So fast forward, Raduta. We've heard the story about these big fish. We've got a network of friends on the continent now. Crowy's had note from a guy in Austria. How
did you pick these notes up then? How does this... Because I'm thinking nowadays, if I and you don't, but if you ever heard of a lake that is doing ridiculous sized fish or whatever, there's social media, you can get information and contact people so easily. But back then, there's no real chain of sort of information.
Just different type of network.
How was that?
Well, you and I meet each other.
Really?
We get on with each other. You're a decent bloke. I'll let you know if anything happens.
Yeah.
And as a result, there was... you could almost call it an inner circle of people that were in the know of all of the things that were happening in the various different countries.
Yeah.
And just going back to the World Cup, the 1996 World Cup, obviously when Simon himself won that, we made a lot of friends in a lot of different countries.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll revisit that a bit later on, but Simon and I made a lot of friends in a lot of different countries, and as a result, we got invited to a lot of places.
Yeah, your network is tight.
And you know, going back then, it was a phenomenal network of the best anglers in all of the best places.
Yeah.
And we heard about Raduta, and went over there first. So there was myself, Crowy, Rod Hutchinson, Malley, and Kev Clifford.
What a trip!
Just to be in the presence of Rod Hutchinson was incredible. And you know, Kev Clifford is an absolute legend.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the new guys won't necessarily know who he is, and if they do know who he is, they might think that he was one of the old farts that was involved in carp talk. But Kev Clifford is responsible for northern carp fishing. Simple as, because you know where he stocked, what he's done, how he's done it. His knowledge of the carp world is phenomenal, and just to sit in the presence of two
Pioneers, mate.
Pioneers and legends, iconic
Yeah.
legends. You know, Rod is Rod. He was an ultimate hero. And I remember even now, just sitting back, I'm smiling thinking about it. We sat down on the banks of Raduta, and Rod Hutchinson and Kev Clifford are having a bit of a competition between each other about where they fished. And Rod was laughing, going, I bet you didn't never fished Little Britain in the Colne Valley, have you?
Yeah.
And Kev smiled, and he's gone, when did you fish there then? And Rod's like, well, I fished there in, I think it was 1977.
Yeah.
And Kev laughed. He went, I stocked it in 1975.
It's like Carpy top trumps, no?
Exactly the same as that, you know. And it's what these guys know is, you know, amazing. And I'll come back to some of the attitudes these days, not in a critical way, but people talking about that fish doesn't count because it's a wrong one, and this one's I only fish here. A lot of the places I only fish here because they're right ones are actually not. They just don't know the history of them. They don't know where they were stocked from. So you get hypocritical people. Sometimes the best thing to do is just keep your trap shut.
Yeah, exactly. Enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. Don't comment on anything because you can be made a fool of very, very easily. And there was a lot of guys that were talking about fishing really, really historic venues. And I'm not going to name any names, but there's one in have I told you the story? No. We're not going to name who they are, but I'm going to say that there are two people who are at opposing ends of what they're happy to fish for. And one of them is very much true blue, that's it.
Yeah.
And the other one is, I don't mind, I'll fish for anything.
Yeah.
And they basically don't get on with each other.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly common thing that they don't get on with each other, and they'll have a chip at each other now and again. And the one is fishing one lake, and the other is fishing another lake. And the true blue, is fishing the true blue lake, is slagging the other guy off. What he doesn't actually realise is that they were stocked from the same consignment of fish that came from Croatia. And the lorry was filled with 2 tanks.
Yeah.
And stop 1 was on Lake A and stop 2 was on Lake B. And you just think...
But you just let them have
don't
it,
bother.
No, you can't.
Just enjoy it.
The politics you cannot get involved in.
No, absolutely.
You talked a little bit about Raduta there. So
Yes.
as a lake, I've heard from Crowe just crazy stories about like bones, skeletons,
Yes.
bodies, all sorts of crazy stuff. What's the
Yes.
story with all that, mate?
Well, I think I'm going to say I know for a fact that Kev Clifford and I were the first ones ever to fish the bone swim. There was an old church in the corner, and we fished there for a while. I'll see if I can dig one of the old photos out. We had a brace of 40s out. I had a 44 and he had a 42 out.
I love that you've called it the bone swim.
And it was called the bones. That was what it was. But when we first fished it, the water level was quite high. And I remember hooking this fish. There's a gale blowing in my face. It's to be honest, that first Raduta trip was really hard work. It was. We didn't know anything about Romania for a start. You know, nobody knew anything about Romania. We don't know that much about it now, but back then we didn't know too much about it at all. So we had a logistics meeting, met up at Kev Clifford's farm up in Hull, and we've got pallets made up. We've got water. We've got petrol. We sent enough water to send 5 or to look after 5 blokes for 2 weeks.
That's crazy.
Because we didn't think we'd be able to get water out there. That's how daft it was. So we've had these pallets shipped over there. We've then flown in. We've got out to the lake. It was really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Like really tough. It was before it had been restocked. It was just the old originals in there, but there were some very, very big fish in there. And we bounced around various different places. As daft as it sounds, although me and Crowe fished together all the time, we were really, really close. There was another French guy that was coming with us called Ludwig Dievre. He was a really nice bloke that we knew, and he didn't know anybody else, so we had to fish with either me or Simon.
Okay.
So as a result, Crowe fished with Ludwig, and I fished with Kev Clifford. So we split Anton Deck up to fish with other people for that time. And I was fishing with Kev, and we've been to various different pegs, not caught anything. We've ended up, the wind started picking up and it's blowing into this really, really nice bay. And there was a little bit of a wooden structure, but we didn't know what it was. Anyway, it turned out to be the church. And I've got this fish. I'm playing this fish. It was the first, we were probably 7 days into a 2-week trip. It's the first bite, and I'm playing this thing, and it is an absolute hooligan of a gale coming forwards at us. And I've waded into the water, and there is a fantastic stone platform underneath the water. Yeah. It is brilliant just for walking out.
What a result this is.
I'm thinking, of all the things to have,
custom made.
Bingo. You know, everywhere, because it was wild. You know, it wasn't a fishing lake. You are literally, you know, you are where you are.
Yeah.
And so we've gone out and I'm netting on this thing anyway. It was obviously a grave. and out on the gravestones, and then when the water subsided and cleared up, you could see the bones.
I
everywhere.
can't deal with that. I don't think,
And,
mate.
well, it was quite weird because just as we've got a panel behind us here,
Yeah.
there was a vertical cliff, and erosion obviously would over the years erode it, and you could be sat there and suddenly a bone would drop out because you're fishing below burial level effectively, because where the water's eroded the edge. You can imagine if it was an old hill. Obviously, when it's been cut out, so the bones there. When Tim Paisley caught his 70, that was an interesting story because I'm fishing with Tim on that occasion, and Andy Chambers was around the corner with Mick Barnard. Rob Marsh and Stu Wallace are a little bit further around the corner. We're on what's called a shepherd's hut, and Andy and Mick were on the bone swim, and they got a set of goalposts out. And the wind is blowing in again because it used to blow directly out there. And you know what the old goalpost setup, 4 rods on a goalpost setup. And we're all sat there just chatting. And suddenly a skull rolled out the water and just rolled up the back. You imagine just with the wash, and it's just rolled up, and it's come to settle directly between the goalposts.
No, really?
Looking at us.
That's bad. It's bad juju for me. I couldn't deal with that, I don't think. Wow. But worked. He got 70.
Yeah. Well, he'd already caught it by then.
Well.
But yeah.
Oh,
But there were some interesting ones there. I think Briggsy was on the Shepherds when a bloke drowned. There was an old shepherd that used to live in the hut, and they had a pull across raft. A really, really sad story out there that the shepherd and his son or whatever had come in, and they'd gone across on a rope and a raft that they pull across. And then the old boy had come up, and whether he'd had a beer or what the scores are, we don't know. But anyway, there was a bit of conversation going on. You can imagine it is come across and get me. It's like, hang on, we're busy doing something, and he's decided to swim across. He's got halfway over and gone under.
Yeah,
not come back up again. But there was some. I used to run the trips there for years.
Really?
And there was one. I'm wincing now talking about stories. There was a guy there who came on one trip, and there was the big South African canvas tents.
Yeah.
And basically, you put a crossbar together, and then throw the sheet over the top of it. And in each corner, you've got an eyelet, and you put the metal locator into the eyelet. So there's basically male and female joints. So you get the gist of it, just a bog standard cross tent. Anyway, one lad's suddenly they've turned up in my swim, come around on the boat, turned up in my swim. Rob, you need to come and help. There's been an accident. I'm like, what sort of an accident? Well, you'll have to come and see. So I've gone round there, and there is a poor lad who was sat on a bucket, absolutely doubled up in agony, and he'd got a pair of baggy shorts on because obviously it's quite warm. And what he's done is he's located the male into the joint.
Yeah.
And it's pinged out.
Oh.
And as it's pinged out, it's gone through the leg of his shorts and basically ripped his nutsack open.
How?
Yeah, exactly.
The likelihood of that is pretty...
Well, you can imagine he's gone in and he's standing there just locating the thing, and you put it in the one end, I'll put it in at the other end. He's standing legs astride it. He thought it's gone in. It's under tension, and literally it's just gone... But as it's come back up again, because it was sharp, it's gone... Literally, yeah.
What do you do with that in Raduta?
Well, the first thing I did was I had to have a look at it, which is a bit scary. It's like, mate, I know this is difficult, but I need to have a look at it. And you can actually see it.
No.
Through the sack is open, you can see the nut. And it was a case of getting him off to hospital and have him stitched up. So, yeah, it was... yeah, don't know where that popped into my head from as a Raduta memories, but it's obviously...
Balling. Oh, my... That's not the way, is it?
Nearly lost his nuts.
That's not a trip you want to run, is it?
No. Most of them, to be fair, were absolutely fantastic. There's an awful lot of really big fish caught at the time, and Raduta at that time was the epicenter of the world. Like Rainbow has been recently to a degree, and now it's moving to Shumbar a little bit as the world's eyes. But back in the day, Cassein was first, and then Raduta was it. And it was just... Everybody that's been there at that time that was involved in that area will agree with me that there wasn't anywhere in the world to touch it, both with fish sizes and also the atmosphere around it. And we caught some phenomenal fish. What
was your proudest capture, do you think, out of there? Not necessarily the biggest fish, but the one you sort of hold the most significant.
There's one. It was written about. I was doubled up with Briggsy, and there was a swim called a nice swim. And Steve is a lovely bloke to fish with. He's such a relaxed angler. He's very, very good at catching fish.
Yeah,
obviously, which helps. And once again, we fish very, very similarly. You know, sometimes I'll up the tempo and I'll be pacey, but other times when you need to be, it's a case of sitting back and just chilling and waiting. And it was we called it the night of the spiders, because when you look at the sacking pole, we used to sack the fish then, obviously, and you look at the sacking pole, and it just looked like a maypole. This sacking pole, there were so many cords coming off it, and we'd only sack things of 30, 35 pound plus. So, you know, you that would be the equivalent now, I would say, a 40 pounder would be a 55 pounder maybe, and a 30 pounder would be a 40 pounder. So imagine catching a dozen 40s in a night.
Mad.
And it was just such a lovely trip.
And on that place as well. It's not like you're catching 40s from, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the big old wild fish.
Yeah.
And you know, it was such a shame when they died in there. But those fish in particular were the leanies of the international scene, really, those Fresinet fish. Yeah. And I found a lake last year, 2 years ago now, that bought some of the original Fresinet commons.
Oh, wow.
Before the strain died out over there, and the fish farm closed, they bought them. And they still exist. I'm so pleased with it, because they're such good fish.
What a gem of a find that is.
Yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful creatures as well.
Lovely.
So, you know, the Fresinet legacy will carry on
there. Yeah.
That's
good though, isn't it?
Imagine the last of the leanies going.
I know.
It would be a great shame.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's almost part of evolution, but it would be a great shame. And when you think they've gone, and you're not really going to see that many anymore, and suddenly it's a case of, actually, we knew there's some over here. Yeah. Just, you know, incredible. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Incredible. So, obviously we've gone Raduta, but there's been some crazy play. You've sort of then sort of branched out. Match carp fishing has taken a hold with you and Crowie as well.
Yeah,
so you've got involved in sort of day tickets, big fish, if you like, fishing in Raduta, and then into match. Was there any? It just seems like you were into it all. There wasn't any, because normally I'd pigeonhole people in terms of one or the other. Really, they like a carp match, they don't like carp match fishing. But for you guys seem to sort of, love it all.
Well, Crowie hates matches now.
Yeah.
You know, he used to like it, but he doesn't like them now, which is fair enough. But I enjoyed that competition scene so much when we went out. So just, again, winding back, been going out to France for a while.
Yeah.
Crowie wanted to go down to Tamar, one close season. This would be 92-ish.
Yeah.
And I said, look, forget that. If we're going all the way down there, come to France. He'd never been before.
Wow.
So I said, let's go over to France. So we took him over there for the first time, and you know, he got it straight away. Yeah. It was absolutely brilliant. That was it then, right? You know, we were abroad all the time. Yeah. So we used to go out. We spent a lot of time fishing the rivers. So we pioneered a few rivers in the western side of France as well.
Still on that west side, yeah?
Yeah. Because you see, what was happening was the east side was becoming quite busy.
Okay.
And there was where the Yonne and the Seine join, and the Black Bridge and places like that. They were sort of target areas. And I've always liked, if I can do, to stay away from people. Because if everybody's going to the same place, it's a little bit different with Raduta, because I was at the epicenter of it. But if it's just another lake that's been discovered, I don't necessarily just want to jump on that. I'd rather be there first or do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I'd rather catch a wild 35 pounder from a river that's never seen a hook before than go out and catch a 50 pounder from a commercial.
Yeah.
So, and it's, angling journeys are funny things. They're very personal things, aren't they? You know, we want to catch a fish, then you want to catch lots of fish.
Yeah.
Or more fish, then you want lots of fish, then you want a bigger fish, then you want to catch more than your mates. And then you want to catch the biggest fish, and then you want to prove you can consistently catch the biggest fish. And actually, having gone through the angling journey now, it's more for me about who I'm with and where I'm at.
Yeah.
Rather necessarily than what I'm after. Yeah. And, but it changes, because it's not a one song or a one verse song angling, is it? You know, you this is one of the things that gets me sometimes, that people say, oh, well, you know, I just do this. Why? You don't just have to do that.
Much more to it. Yeah.
Do whatever you want to do. And you know, if I want to go out and catch a double from a day ticket lake, I'll do it. And tomorrow I might be fishing a 10,000 acre reservoir.
It's that variety, I think, that keeps it fresh. A lot of people will go really hard on a campaign, catch a fish, and then they'll burn out. But if you have that variety, well, I'm only speaking from my experience, if you have that variety, it keeps everything fresh.
Yeah. Well, look, campaign angling is amazingly rewarding.
Yeah.
When you eventually get what you want, and I've not had the opportunity of ever really targeting a fish. I started doing it once with a fish called Humpy in Poole Hall.
Right.
And unfortunately it died before I caught it.
Yeah.
And as a result, I thought, I'm not going to waste my time just trying to catch one fish again because of the amount of time that you spend trying to get it, and then either someone else catches it or it dies, then life's too short for that. So I'm gonna do whatever I want to do at the time, which is it's just different choices, isn't it? I don't know why it's just come in my mind, but there was another pioneering trip that I did with Briggsy. Yeah, just going back to that, and we went over to make a TV program called Extreme Carp.
Right.
When I was with Sky Sports, I had an Extreme Carp program. So we'd filmed at the smallest carp lake that we could find. And we decided we were going to go at the opposite end of the scale and try and fish the biggest one that we can find. And, if you think about when you locate fish in a lake, you go for a walk around it. Or if it's big, or if it's the canal or the river, you might cycle around it.
Yeah.
And if it's a big lake in France, one of the big reddies, you might drive around it.
Yeah.
This one, we had to fly around it.
Wow.
'Cause it was that big. It was Lake Ontario.
Oh, that is a sheet of water.
And, it's not far off the size of Wales.
Yeah.
Just to put that into perspective. And it's 96 miles long and 40, 50 odd miles wide.
That's worth an underarm in the edge, isn't it?
That's how we caught them.
No way.
That is how we caught them, yeah.
But when you find them, if they're there, they're there, aren't they?
That's it, found a harbour. Because wild carp love humans.
Yeah.
So if you find humans, where there's wild carp, you'll find carp normally. And literally it was as simple as that. But we're in this aeroplane and Steve's in the back, I'm in the front, pilot's on the one side, and we're flying around. And anybody that's seen the Extreme Carp DVD, that I might put back up onto YouTube actually at some stage.
It sounds mega, definitely do that, Rob.
But it's a good old school thing. You'll see Steve with good old big curly hair and a big beard. And anyway,
sounds incredible.
We're there and we're looking for these carp. We've taken off out of Oswego, chartered this plane. And we're flying around the outskirts just looking for signs of carp, and we couldn't find any. Yeah. So I said to the pilot, is there any warm water inlets or anything? He said, well, yeah, it's 9 Mile Point Nuclear Station a bit further up. They've got hot water outlets. And I said, well, let's go up there then. So we've gone up towards that, and he said, there's an exclusion zone around it of 2 miles. And I'll tell you when it was 2001. Right. Because it was 9/11, happened just after we'd been there.
Oh, wow.
And they obviously knew something was going on because they got a 2 mile exclusion zone around the around the
nuclear plant.
The plant. So so I've said, can you get a bit closer? We can't really see what we need to see. And the pilot's gone a little bit closer. All of a sudden, the radio's crackled into life, and it was security. And they've sent 2 helicopters up to intercept us, and he is absolutely crapping himself now. The pilot, he said, "Well, I'm flying in restricted airspace, so I can lose my license. But actually, if they think we're hostile, they'll shoot us down.
Yeah, they'll get rid.
What do you mean shoot us down? It's like, well, it's a nuclear power station.
Threaten the power station. Yeah,
they'll shoot us down. So
brilliant.
And literally, I'm sat there listening to this, thinking, oh, this is a bit. This is a bit of a one.
What did Briggsy say to that? Was he quite calm?
He hadn't got a clue what was going on. He sat in the back going, oh, it's nice, isn't it? What's happening? Steve's like, it's just quite chilled. Yeah. Sat in the back of the plane. But yeah, this helicopter came up and he was like, the pilot's saying, we are not hostile. Repeat, not hostile. And the helicopters come up, had a quick look at us and then said, right, now deviate. And
we are off not hostile.
Yeah. So
that's an incredible sheet of water to catch from though, mate.
Phenomenal. Yeah. It was really, really good. And we had some amazing fish in there too. Absolutely fantastic.
So that's North America.
Yeah.
But you went out to America in an absolute ill-fated world champs mission, didn't you? What was Crowy? I can't remember what the exact story was. You went out to fish in America.
Oh, yes.
And it was a bit of a mare, wasn't it? From the get-go?
Nothing got there.
Yeah.
For a start, it was just... when one of these things that everything went wrong on and it just went wrong. It really just... Right, where's the gear? Oh, it hasn't arrived. What? So we've actually got... The rod tube that we got with us in the terminal tackle box, no bivvy, no beds, nothing at all. Yeah, nothing at all. I ended up sleeping on. You can buy 50-kilo sacks of maize over there.
Can you?
And a 50-kilo sack of maize is really, really comfortable.
Oh yeah, was that the bed?
So that's what I bought for a bed chair. Yeah, because it was $8 I think for this sack of maize.
Lovely.
And we thought, right, that'll do. Just stick that on the floor. It's like a mattress. So that was my bed. We bought a mosquito shelter, which interestingly. And here's one for all of you tackle developers out there. Interestingly, I took it back home with me because I really liked it and thought there's mileage in that. And it was going to come out under our venture range. And we made a sample of it and never did anything with it. Now, John Shoes Jones used to work for us. And he went to Avid.
Yeah.
And Avid bought the Avid shelter out. And obviously after that had come out, then obviously you've got there's a Nash version, I think there's a Fox version now. But the original idea came from that first trip, which was that mosquito screen house. And I've still got it.
Yeah, you still got it?
Still got it, yeah.
You said before you don't throw away anything.
Never throw anything away.
Wow.
So never throw anything away. So having a chat with Kevin, because, I used to work, obviously, Kevin was the first person to sponsor me and Simon. We were here from, I think it was 93 to 97. And that's...
Yeah, 93 to 97. Very good from you, mate.
Yeah, so I've still got all of the original. I've got the rods I won the World Cup with, and the PM 7000 Daiwa reels with the same line on them.
The same line?
Same line. I thought, right, that's memorabilia. That's not changing.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was that.
So as we're there, let's talk Nash. So obviously you're with Nash, with Crowe in that period of time. How was that, and how did that end?
Well, Kevin was always a bit of a hero of mine.
Yeah.
And Nash at the time they were it.
Yeah.
He was the man when it came to development. Him, I think Lockie possibly for stainless bits and bobs, but there were three main brands back then. Corda didn't exist, and you've got Fox that were bed chairs. You've got Nash, which was terminal tackle, bivvies, and also you got Solar, which was
of course,
metalware.
Yeah.
So those were the big three back in the day. And to be approached by any one of those three was phenomenal. But, Kevin in particular was, I had a massive amount, and still have a massive amount of respect for Kevin anyway and what he's done.
What was he like back then?
He was a grumpy old bastard, and he still is.
I can imagine. I can see it in him. I think he's chilled out a bit, but
he's still a grumpy old fart.
The stories I hear about him, like back in the day,
yeah.
He was like Alex Ferguson, mate.
Yeah, 100%.
Just an absolute
100%.
nutter. Did you ever get a dressing down?
No, I didn't. Crowe had a couple.
I can imagine.
So yeah, because although I said I quite like an argument, I mean a structured legal argument.
Yeah, you're not going to just shout your mouth off.
No, I can be very diplomatic.
Yeah.
And there might be a disagreement. I might disagree what Kevin said. What everybody needs to understand is Kevin's right.
Yeah.
So Kevin's right. Rule 1, Kevin's right. Rule 2,
Kevin's right.
In the event that Kevin is wrong, refer to Rule 1. So
that's well written.
So but fair play. Look at what he's done.
Yeah.
Look at what he's brought to the table. Look at how he's done everything. And to me at the time, Kevin was he was probably equal with Rod Hutchinson, my idol, because Rod Hutchinson as the angler was just a god.
Yeah,
he was
a character, like had it all, didn't he?
Yeah, and I just grew up thinking, wow, Rod was a god, whereas Kevin was very clever. Kevin did a lot of the tackle development, although Rod did a lot of it as well, but it wasn't quite the same. But Kevin was seen to be at the forefront, and it was interesting at the time, a little bit like bands, where you have Oasis and Blur, rivalries. There was Kevin Maddox and there was Kevin Nash, and it was you were one or the other, Vauxhall and Ford, whatever it might be. And I was very much a Kevin Nash fan. And when he approached Tim Paisley first and said, "Who were these two young whippersnappers that are writing in your magazine? See if they'd like a shirt and a bivvy." I thought, blimey, he's heard of us. And it was amazing.
Massive.
And then to meet him, he got us down and we got involved. Obviously, I met Gary and had some really, really happy times here. We had some very good parties. Parties were legendary.
I think they still are.
Yeah, they always have been.
Yeah,
they always have been. There was, I remember one. I won't name any names, but there was a bit of a tear up in the back garden.
Nice
as well. So
Essex, welcome to Essex.
I remember that's exactly what I thought as a northerner coming down. It's like, cool, we're going to a house party in Essex. There's going to be a kick-off. And Crowe's like, nah, don't be daft. There was.
Yeah,
there was.
It's the order of proceedings.
Yeah. So that was it. And there was some of the stories that used to come out. I remember one fella, and he'll remember it, and Kevin will remember it as well. But somebody nicked. There was a shout on one of the lakes round here. He's got me rods. He's got me rods.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, oh blimey, someone's nicked his rods. Anyway, they've had a look around. It's like, be careful, he's got an hammer.
Wow.
So it's like, blimey, this bloke's going around nicking rods and he's got an hammer. Anyway, this bloke, who shall remain nameless, said, he's in the bushes over here, I'll get him. It's like, he's got an hammer, he's got an hammer. He went, he ain't anymore. So I went in there and I took the hammer off him. It's like, what did you do with it then?
Yeah.
He went, what do you think I did with it? I went, I don't know.
I
hit him with it, didn't I?
Jesus. That is classic, isn't
so
it?
It's like, wow, Essex.
Yeah, I'm here.
This is it, yeah.
I want to go home.
I'm a quiet Shropshire boy.
Yeah, I'm not used to this. Yeah, but that sounds like an introduction. And then obviously 97 comes about. How does that how does that then end? Does it end on good terms?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was good terms certainly from my point of view.
Yeah.
No problem whatsoever. I think the issue was that Simon and I had become a little bit ant and deck.
Yeah.
We were the band. We went together as a package.
Yeah.
And Crowe rang me one day and said, "There's another bloke that's interested in looking after us. Are you interested in moving?" And I said, "Well, not really, because I'm more than happy. I love the gear. I've still got an original profile. I've still got one of the first ever Titans. I loved the gear. I absolutely loved it. And he said, "Well, don't you want to know who it is?" And I went, "Not really." And he went, "Well, if I was to tell you it's Rod Hutchinson, would that make a difference?" And I nearly fell off my chair that Rod Hutchinson had heard of Rob Hughes and Simon Crowe, let alone wanted us to go there. And we did a slideshow up in, I think it was Sheffield. And Rod came along to see the slideshow.
Did he?
I mean, but you've got to consider what the equivalent of this is now. This is like two young guys that you've never heard of that have had a couple of magazine features written, doing a slideshow that Terry Hearn goes along or Daryl Peck goes along to watch.
Yeah, and then them going,
and then says, "I'd like you to come and work for me." And we were just absolutely bowled over by it, and that was how it ended. So as far as I'm concerned, I've always had a massive amount of respect for Kevin. I still maintain that he's a grumpy old bugger, and we've had that conversation already. But I love him to bits, and he is.
There's definitely mutual respect.
He's done a massive amount for carp fishing, and still does.
Yeah, he does. He's probably too active, isn't he?
Yeah.
But top bloke. We touched a little bit on the America trip, but I'm just going to touch on some of the other places that you've carp fished at. South Africa.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I remember seeing. Was that on Sky?
Yeah, it might have been. I
remember seeing it on Sky, I think, when I must have been relatively young, but I remember seeing, like, it might have been on a Tight Lines feature or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it just looked wild.
Oh, it's one of my all-time favourite trips, that first ever trip there, because, Africa is Africa. And again, Western style, classed as Western style carp fishing, i.e. our style of carp fishing, didn't exist out there. It didn't exist in France when I first started going there. It didn't exist in Romania when we went there. It also didn't exist in South Africa. So going over to somewhere before it's even, it's like early pioneers.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's almost like early missionaries where you're spreading the word about a style of fishing. Because they fish something called mealie bombs and mealie pips, and they would ledger, and they'd fish with 14-foot rods and cast long. And they'd have sort of a hair rig, but they would be corn fishing with regular recasting. So it's like a cross between method feeder fishing and carp fishing, really. Yeah. And we'd turn up with bobbins and buzzers. Yeah. And it all came about through a bloke called Martin Davidson, who was a mad king carp angler who used to live in Leicester, who moved over there.
All the best are from Leicester,
Absolutely, Rob. That's it. He was a boy. Yeah. There's an amazing story about him as well, because he just got fed up, decided he wanted to go, and it was a land of opportunity back then.
Right.
And he went over there, and he spent a little bit too long getting himself set up. He was enjoying the life over there too much first.
Right.
And he spent some of his money.
Yeah.
And then when he realised he actually had to do something, he realised he didn't have enough money to do what he was going to do. So he went to, I think it was Sun City, but if it wasn't Sun City, it was another casino. And he went, "Let's have a spin on this now."
No way.
And literally he put 10 grand on red or black, whichever one it was. And he went, "If it comes up, I stay. And if it goes off, I go home." And literally that's what he did. And he is a multi-millionaire.
Oh, wow.
And he fits hotel laundries, pipe fitting, stadiums, other bits and bobs like that. Just an amazing, one of life's amazing characters.
That is a bold move.
He is that amazing character, in his life literally could have gone that way or that way. And he's phenomenal. But anyway, he was a mad king carp angler, and he got in touch through Carp Talk at the time, because he knew Crowe was there, and he went, "When are you a pair of idiots going to come over to South Africa?" It's like, well, didn't even know there was carp over there. And he went, "Well," and it was like that.
Yeah.
Because it would be pre-Christmas, and he went, "Come in January." That's it. So it's like, you know what? Let's go.
Yeah, this sounds
So we did, and it was phenomenal, that first trip. Just driving through the bush, bivvying up, seeing or hearing lions roaring, monitor lizards, alligators,
there
crocodiles.
Must have been some crocodiles, hippos. I mean, hippos are like the biggest killers, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even, I've been to Australia and fished, and nobody turns their back on the water or anything like that. And you go in as like somebody who's got no experience of that world.
Completely green.
And you're green as.
Yeah.
You're just bait, basically. I couldn't imagine going to South Africa, adapting to that angling over there, but also just everything that probably wants to eat you or rip you apart.
It was amazing.
I bet.
Just absolutely amazing. I remember, I've again just had a flashback now. It's lovely doing this because I don't get the chance to think about it very often. But
you've done a
just
lot.
reliving that first night, we're in the bush, and it is the bush. You know, there is stuff everywhere.
Oh.
You can hear all sorts of things that you don't hear about, the tree frogs, the monkeys coming down and nicking stuff. That are just phenomenal. And you know, it's gone dark. Just looking up at the skies, listening to the noise, and it just started a massive love affair with Africa for me. I've been back so many times. I went back last year to Kenya.
Wow.
And spent some time over in Kenya. I just love Africa. It was amazing. But there were some real adventures on that too. Real, you know, we've not really touched on the fish that we caught. Raduta, we caught shed loads of really, really big fish. America, we caught loads of big fish.
Yeah.
Africa, we caught loads and loads of big fish. Crowie, we ended up, we used to go every other on the runs. And
really?
Yeah, because we'd end up rowing half the time over whose turn it was. And we literally had rules about, because you know what it's like, you fish with your mate and half the time they're on the one side and the bloke will catch 6 and you'd have 1.
Yeah.
And if you're the one catching 6, and I've been the one that catches 6, and you almost feel a little bit guilty.
Yeah, you feel harsh at the end of it, don't you?
And I've been the one that's catching 1,
yeah,
thinking, I really want 1.
Yeah.
And so as a result, what we did, because we fished so similarly, like our gear was exactly the same, our rigs were exactly the same, we wear the Anton deck style thing, our mentality of how we fish was, and probably still is, very, very similar. Although, you know, he fishes a lot more than me, and my fishing has gone a lot wider than Simon's fishing. But the idea is still very, very similar. And because we're exactly the same, it'd be a case of, right, those are my 3 rods, those are your 3 rods. Whoever has first bite, it's theirs. And after,
then it's switch.
All 6. So if the first bite is on your rods, you get the first one, and then I've got all 6 rods for the next one. So that's how it started.
That's fair, isn't it?
It's very fair.
That's diplomatic.
But you need a legal definition of it, because what happens is now I've had the first fish.
You need a legal definition
definition of this, because I've had the first fish, so now it's your go. So you have a bite, and it falls off.
Yeah.
Because you're crap.
What's the score there?
What's the score then? Because is it fish or is it
no,
bite?
No, I think that's bites.
It's bite. Okay.
Yeah, it's bites. I'd go bites.
So we went bites as well, because it was like, no, it's fish. No, it's bites. No, it's fish. No, it's bites. Scrap. Yeah. No, it's bites.
Bites.
So we then established that it was bites, and if it falls off, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Okay. What's a bite?
Well, if you lift into it, and there's a fish on, that is a bite.
100%. So you get go on.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't developed yet. Well, no, yes, that was a bite.
No,
you should have hit it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not touching that yet because it didn't go. It needs to be on.
I didn't realise it was that competitive.
Oh, it got that bad.
It'd be like a Magna Carta of rules for South African carping.
Yeah, ask Briggsy about it. It's quite funny. So, I think Briggsy referred to it recently somewhere, saying there was World War I in a camp or World War III in a camp, and it was about what constitutes a bite and what isn't, and so on and so forth.
Sounds like a nightmare, doesn't it?
Oh, it's hilarious. It was all, it's all
good
banter.
Yeah,
it's all banter, but that's how it was. So of course we're going every other. Anyway, Crowie caught the South African record.
Yeah.
So which was a phenomenal fish.
Is it on your rods?
I think it was on his rods, which makes it better. Yeah, it was on my bite. As well.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, whatever it is, but I caught a load of fish. We had him. I think he had a 50. Yeah, I think it was 55 or maybe 56, whatever it was. I can't remember if he had another 40, but I think I had a couple of 340s. So it's one of those ones. I've had 340s. You've had a 50. You've had a bigger one. I've had more 40s. We've had the same number of 30s. Whatever.
Everyone's happy.
It just the occasion was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But there were a number of other quite funny things. One was the near tear up in the camp about whose bite it was. Again, like brawling. All good fun.
Unreal.
The other one was, bear in mind out there, you're in the bush. There aren't any facilities. You take everything with you. We're living out of a trailer. So the toilet was a screen, hole in the ground, oil drum over the top of it, toilet seat on for a bit of comfort.
Yep.
We'd had Impala curry the night before.
Oh, no.
Oh, I can recommend it. It's lovely.
Oh, really?
Impala venison curry.
I can imagine it's nice.
Impala curry, really, really, really nice. Following day,
not so good.
Not so good. So we've got up for breakfast. Everybody's in the camp. I'm thinking, might need a little loo trip first. You know that moment where you think I might need a little loo trip when it turns into I need a DEFCON 3 loo trip now.
Quick.
So I've had to sprint to where the loo is. We'd had a bushcraft lesson. And the bushcraft lesson first, when you're walking down paths, don't wave your arms around.
Oh, God.
Spiders' webs, other bits and bobs like that. You don't want nasty little spiders. A lot of funnel webs over there, all sorts of other things. So
Brilliant.
keep your arms in when you're walking. When you've got your torch on, ideally have it red rather than white. Always look where you're placing your feet and look a foot either side just in case there's a snake about to pass. All of these things. When you go to the lavatory, you lift the seat up.
Check.
You check the lid and then you bang it a couple of times just in case underneath the loo, you know,
It's a big old dirty
oil
grey
drum,
funnel web.
anything's gone in there.
Yeah.
No time for that. No time for that at all. I have literally just managed to unbutton the rope on the shorts, get in there, and as I've dropped down, I felt a pinch on my bum cheek on the one side and thought in my own mind that the loo seat must have moved because it was literally just perched on the top and I'd trapped a cheek in between the loo seat and the top.
Oh,
Thought,
no.
oh, you bugger. Anyway, it's done it again. And I wasn't moving. I thought, what's that? And this thing has just crawled off. And
What was it?
It was a spider.
Oh, no.
And it had got legs like cocktail sticks with red knees, a red body. And obviously in nature, black and red.
Yeah, danger.
But, well, look at you, black and red.
Yeah,
danger sign.
danger.
Danger
Yeah,
sign,
exactly.
yeah. So basically it was the spider version of you and you've just
Wow.
bit me on the arse a couple of times.
Brilliant.
So it's like, oh, happy days. What do we do now then? So I've wandered back out. It's like, just been bitten on the arse by a spider.
Twice.
Of course, you can imagine the sympathy from the camp.
Yeah.
Everybody is like, oh, no, really? Oh, that's terrible. Come and sit down.
It's lovely
Oh,
knowing
would you like a drink? It was more, hey, Crowy, you're his mate.
you're
Off you
gonna
try.
die.
Yeah. Well, you're dead then. All of this. It's like, well, actually, no, really, I have.
I'd be quite scared, mate.
Well, I didn't know whether to be scared.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes you can be scared where you don't need to be. And I thought, do I need to be scared? Not really sure. So we rang the ranger up. It's like, just been bitten by the arson spider. Ah, right, okay. What sort of spider was it? It was a black one with red stuff on it. He went, oh, okay.
That's not a good
No, it wasn't a good O. And it was, well, you're 4 hours away from the closest hospital. So that basically is irrelevant.
What, you're dead?
I haven't got any antidote here. So the best thing to do for the moment is just sit down and keep calm. I'll come round with the book and you can point out which spider it is. And literally I'm sat there thinking,
This is it.
am I dying? Is this it? Am I going to get... this is a bit weird.
On the arse by a spider.
On the
in
arse by a
South
spider in
Africa.
South Africa. How cool would that be? What a way to go.
That's like Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
Carp world,
That's
isn't
it.
it?
Anyway, he's come round. He went, no, you're all right.
Oh,
And that was it.
jeez.
So, but there was probably 20 minutes, half an hour where I'm sitting there thinking,
This is it.
yeah, it could be it. Could well be it.
I'm taking the next run, boys.
yeah. But the amount of banter they were giving Crowy, you've got to suck the poison out, all of that.
Yeah,
like, you're his mate, get on it. And obviously, when a spider bites you, it doesn't want to use its venom, a little bit like a snake as well. They don't like to use the venom unless
That's
they
right.
absolutely have to. It's a defense mechanism or a feeding mechanism. And if they bite you in defense, it means they can't bite anything to eat for a reasonable period of time until they've regenerated it. So it's a last resort thing.
It's just like a false bite.
Well, no, there's three different types of venom. There's a venom that gives you anaphylactic shock, which was the one that could have got me. There's a venom that paralyzes the area, so it can literally then kill you. Or there's a venom that basically kills the area, so it will toxify small things. So it could be big enough to kill a fly,
Yeah.
but it's not big enough to kill a human being.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, it was one of the lesser ones. But
my days.
another funny story.
Any trouble with like the big uns? So like lions, hippos, crocodiles.
Hippos are a lot worse than crocodiles.
I bet.
You know, what you don't do is you don't stand in the water waving a carp around. You know, because if they're used to carp being there, then crocodiles will come. Any animal's going to come and feed where
Of course,
food
it's
is, isn't
distress.
it?
It's going to think it's a meal here.
Yeah. So basically, you know, if you've got one, you land it as quickly as you can, and then you put it back as quickly as you can, and you don't spend time loitering around as croc food.
Yeah, he's in the sling there, mate. I'm just going to take him for a photo.
The good thing about hippos is that when you know where they are, it's all right because you know where they are, because they tend to be fairly passive creatures. It's when you go anywhere near them, or you antagonise them, or alternatively, like a lot of animals, if you startle them, that's where you get in trouble.
Yeah, cool.
So the best thing to do is, you know, if you keep your wits about you, you're fine. You can normally see where a hippo is. Although if they've been in for a while, you only see the nostrils and the ears, and sometimes they'll submerge completely, so they can be a bit hard to spot.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you've got a little bit of a depth of water, and you wouldn't even see them. Like you see those crocs and those hippos sort of just appear.
Yeah.
And if you're just, I don't know, wading out and playing a carp.
But it's like you're very observant. As a carp angler, you're very
Yeah.
observant. You know what's going on around you. You know what the lake looks like around you. So, to begin with, whenever you go somewhere new, you spend a long time looking.
Yeah.
And then when you know that there's nothing there, then you can go in and you'll see if something changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one night, it was quite funny, we're double bivvied up. So he's on one side of the tent, I'm on the other side of the tent. And we're using particles and tiger nuts. And it is literally outside my bivvy in a dish. A metal tin outside. So you can imagine bed chairs are pushed right to the side of the canvas.
Yeah.
There is a piece of canvas, and on the other side of the canvas there is a tub full of particles. So distance-wise, it is about a foot away from me. But there is a wall of canvas in between. And some stage in the middle of the night, and this snarling and noise is going on in the tin. Crowy, what? Can you hear that? What is it? How the fuck do I know what it is? Have a look. Bollocks. You have a look.
I wouldn't have a look at that.
No. So we thought, you know what? We're in our mid-20s. We're both fairly fit, tough, strong lads. We'll do exactly what every adventurer would do in the circumstances, and that is exactly what you're doing there. Lie on the bed, pull the sleeping bag over the top of you, and pretend not to be there.
That is the ultimate defence for anything.
That's it. Just hide.
If somebody drops a nuclear bomb, I would pull the sleeping bag over my head, mate.
That's it. So it's just like stay there and just wait for it to go away, because whatever it is clearly sounds like it's got teeth. Anyway, it buggered off.
Any idea what it was?
Yep, know exactly what it was. Terrifying creature. Spoke to the guide the next day. Won't believe it. Last night outside the tent, all of this noise going on. What do you reckon that was? He went, it's a honey badger. It's like
a honey badger.
That's exactly what I said. A honey badger.
That sounds lovely.
I'd like to have seen one of them. What is it like a badger but honey coloured? He went, no, you don't want to see a honey badger. You definitely don't want to startle a honey badger. Honey badgers are one of the most dangerous creatures in the bush. They've been known to kill Cape buffalo.
Oh,
they're
my days.
They're like a mongoose. That really aggressive head like a mongoose, but bigger like a badger. They've got an immensely strong jaw, and they've been known to kill Cape buffalo, but it's the way they kill them that's the worst thing. They grab the genitals.
Oh, brilliant.
Do the crocodile grip and death spin, and they've been known to tear the balls off Cape buffalo, these things, because they are so nasty.
Right, so if I don't get my arse bitten by a spider that kills me, I get my balls ripped off by a honey badger.
Well, it was the Nadger badgers then. We were like, stay away from the Nadger badgers. That's where that. So that was cool. But we were there one day or one night, and there was a drinking noise going outside, and a leopard had come down with a couple of cubs. And these again, they're wild leopards, so just wandered down. We'd obviously pitched up in the area that it used to bring its cubs down to drink.
Brilliant.
So just phenomenal, unbelievable.
What,
place.
do you have a bank stick?
No.
What?
Sleeping bag.
Yeah, your sleeping bag is still a defence. I don't even know what I do, mate.
Oh, it's amazing, absolutely amazing.
I've had like wild boar and stuff in Spain that are they're not that scary, to be fair. They're pretty impressive. I wouldn't want them running at me. But
Crowy's terrified of them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, Briggsy said actually.
Yeah, he doesn't like wild boar.
Yeah, they can be when they're charging or when they're pretty not happy. They can be pretty.
In a pack, they're quite boisterous as well. When they, particularly if they've got piglets with them, they're I've seen a lot of them, especially down at Cassein. They're down there. But there was, I think Crowy and Briggsy were fishing together down at Cassein. They were down in the North Arm, and a herd of wild boar have come down. And in the end, Briggsy said, "Have they gone? Are they still there? Have they gone?" And Briggsy feeds them.
Yeah, Briggsy loves them.
He loves them. Yeah, I like them as well. I like Briggsy's more of a pig fan than I am, but I feed him. But Briggsy really actively encourages them all the time, and they love peanuts, by the way. And
peanuts.
Yeah. Anyway, he's gone out to find Crow, and Crowy's up a tree.
Really?
Yeah. He doesn't like
him.
But yeah, all good. But Cassian's another one. We first went there in '96. That's Crowy and I had some good times down there, just catching a fish from Cassein is phenomenal. Oh. But I think one of my all-time captures came from Cassein.
Go on, I like this.
Remember the black mirror?
Yeah,
that was the most iconic fish in England, wasn't it? If there was one fish you wanted to catch, the black mirror.
What a fish!
Probably the Burfield Common would be it now, maybe. But black mirror was head and shoulders. On the world scene, there was a fish in Cassein called Bernadette,
right?
And that was just, it was one of the very last of the old originals. You know, there was a few. There was Moon Scale. There was you know, there were I won't go through the names of all of them. There were lots and lots. But Bernadette was one of the last of the old girls, and it was one of the most historic fish in the whole world. And if you spoke to almost anybody on the continent and said, if you could catch a fish, which one would it be? Bernadette would be it.
That's the one.
And you know, it still ranks as probably my all-time favourite capture. That one.
Talk us through the capture, mate, because this is making, like, as I said, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. So romantic, Cassein. It's just incredible.
Well, it's 2006.
Yeah.
So we're 15 years ago now. So 2006. I used to go down to Cassein quite a lot. We used to love it down there on holidays. And we ended up buying a caravan on a site nearby, which interestingly someone's now gotten their own holidays from. But
nice.
we bought a pitch down there. I used to go down on summer holidays, and the idea is that I've got somewhere that I can take the family down and I can have a little bit of fishing time as well.
Is it nights or is it days only at this point, isn't it?
It was days only at that time, yeah. But going back to days only. There was a period where nights came in, then they went out, and then they came back in again, and then they went out again. So it was, you know, whatever. But I'm pretty sure that it was days only. But I'd only fish days anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So we used to go down there on holiday, and it was 2006 because my son. No, it was 2007. Sorry, because my son had been born in October.
Oh wow.
And we took him down. Kath had been off on maternity leave, and we thought, you know what? Just before she goes back to work, we've got an opportunity to go for an extended period of time. So I went for 3 weeks. Now, we normally go there on holiday for normally 10 days to 2 weeks. You know, it's a 2-week trip, but if we're driving down, we'll break the journey up.
Of course.
And I fish it twice.
Twice in 2 weeks?
Twice in 2 weeks, 2 evenings. That's all I do normally. And the idea behind it is that we'll have a beach day, we'll have a pool day, and we'll have a lake day. Then we'll have a beach day, pool day, lake day. So it's a family holiday.
Good rotation.
Yeah. Beach day, on the way back from the beach, we stop off and we have an ice cream at the lake, because it's on the way past, and I'm looking at where people are and chucking a bit of bait in. Yeah. Lake day, obviously I'm there watching where everybody is all the way through, chucking a bit of bait day. Pool day, we're staying on site. It's got a swimming pool there. But in the evening, we'll go down to the lake, we'll have a pizza, and we'll just chuck a little bit more bait in. So I watch what's going on all over the place. And it's clear that when people go there, they want to go to the key spots, they want to go to the main areas. Yeah. And for the first week, having watched it and started trickling bait in, it was clear there was one area that was being neglected. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to concentrate on that. You narrow your areas down, because when people see you putting bait in on there, they'll jump it straight away. And it's so cutthroat, because when it's days only, you know, you daren't tell anybody you've caught anything, because the next day you can't get the peg.
So it's not like you selected that place based on seeing fish there. It's because it's basically just been neglected.
Yeah, complete lack of pressure, because we know, you know, look, all carp are conditioned these days.
Yeah.
Totally. And, you know, sometimes they can be conditioned to visit a spot because they want food. Yeah. But actually, if food is plentiful, they'll go away from food and they'll go for safety. So I was looking for an area that was nice and quiet, that nobody was going to. And you'd look at where the carp anglers were, and there was one bit that always got neglected because it looked crap. Right. But it was neglected, and I thought, I'm going to trickle a little bit of bait in there. And I carried on doing it, and the second week it hadn't been done. So on the third week, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do my evening there. Yeah. That was it. And lo and behold, I had a bite. Guess what? Bernadette.
No way.
Yeah. £63.12. Just over the moon with that. And, you know, it was down to a little bit of hard work, but more observation of just looking at where people aren't more than where they are.
Do you ever think you're going to catch that fish realistically on one night session?
No.
It's mad, isn't it?
But, you know, it was good angling, but lucky capture. But, you know, Tim Paisley always says I'm a lucky angler.
Take that.
I'm not bothered.
No.
You know, I don't. Call it luck, call it whatever you want. As long as the fish is caught, I don't mind what you want to describe it.
That.
Yeah, went to Germany and caught the biggest fish, or one of the. I think it was the biggest common in Germany at the time. It was after Mary and Joseph, the two big ones, had died. Yeah. There's another one in a gravel pit over there, so I've gone over there and I managed to catch that one. That was 70.
Wow.
Yeah, £72.10, I think that one was.
What about Rainbow, mate? You've had some big ones from Rainbow.
I had the biggest fish out of Rainbow.
Yeah, exactly.
As well, yeah, I had the biggest fish out of Rainbow on my second trip. That was £75.14, which, you know, 75 isn't that big now, but
that's massive.
15 years ago, you know, these are 90-pounders, so
that's massive, mate. £75. It doesn't matter about anything. That is a huge carp. In all those significant captures, which one would you rank highest? That is a very difficult question, I know. And why?
Well, the Cassein one I love because it was Bernadette and it was Cassein. I love Cassein. You know, and my relationship with Cassein is very different to what it used to be, because I used to want to go there and catch fish, but now I just like going there to be there. And my last fish out of Cassein I was so pleased with. It was an 8-pound common.
Really?
And but the significance of that is that they're breeding.
Yeah.
And there are small fish coming
yeah.
through, and it just means because there's more and more big catfish coming through at Cassein as well. So the smaller fish get
they're
less
getting
chance.
very big, aren't they?
Yeah. So when you look at when you've been involved in something for a long period of time, at 25 years, I suppose I've been going down there. Although I haven't been for a few years now, but a bit like an old friend.
Yeah.
When you go back and see it, if you haven't seen your mate for 2 or 3 years, you know what? It doesn't matter because you're that good mates with it. And it's been very, very kind to me.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I don't necessarily publicise an awful lot of fish there because actually Cassein's one of my little private places.
Yeah, keeps yourself.
That I go, and I go there because it's a family holiday. And you know what? I catch every time I go there.
Wow.
But I only fish for 2 evenings. And most of it is probably 5, 6 o'clock in the evening until 10 o'clock at night. So I probably fish it for 8 hours.
Yeah.
I learned a very interesting lesson there, not the last time, but the time before I went. There's a couple of what we call walking spots. Some of the key areas you need a boat to get to. There's other areas which are obvious, and there's some that are walking spots. So you've got to climb through a little bit of stuff or get to places. And I'm not going to blow where they are because they're my special place, and I know that I can catch them there.
Just tell me later, Rob.
Yeah, I've gone down there and I've trickled a little bit of bait into one of these walking spots, and I've seen fish there. And again, they're areas that are ignored. There is loads of carp anglers on through the summer, but they're all being completely ignored.
They just go to the usual spots.
And, there might be a bay as big as this room. And literally that's it. It's 20 foot by 10 foot, but you know what? They'll visit it.
It's definitely on my bucket list, mate. I've heard so many people of all sorts of legendary status talk about Cassein, and I don't know anybody who's ever had a bad word to say about the place.
It's an amazing place, absolutely amazing place. This one in particular, I've gone down to my spot. I've been baiting up on the weed on the far side. You've got like floating potamogeton beds on the far side. So I've been trickling a little bit over in there and thinking I'm going to get it. And there's some German guys fishing a bit further up. Anyway, I haven't got a boat. I've literally got rods, small bag, and a mat. So it's warm enough. If I want to bait up or drop rigs on the far side, just get in, swim them over, drop the bucket over. Back I come, don't need a boat. What's the bother in carrying it when you can swim it 100 yards? Yeah. So drop my bait out, come back. Anyway, had the bite, bang, it's gone and got caught in the weed because I'm fishing on the far side into weed. So I thought, right, I need to go and get this. So I dive.
Yeah, you're a decent swimmer.
A very, very confident swimmer. Sometimes you can be overconfident at that, but I'm very, very comfortable in and around water.
Okay.
And so I thought, right, let's go and get it. So I've got the unhooking mat, and I've put the unhooking mat on the water. I've put the landing net on the unhooking mat, and I've jumped in the water and I've put my elbows over the top of the mat, and I'm basically reeling myself into the fish. Yeah. And how stupid can you be sometimes? I just didn't realise that you can't pick a fish up when your feet aren't on the floor.
No. It
doesn't work.
Is it? And how deep is it?
Well, it's about 20 foot deep.
Oh, brilliant.
So I'm swimming. So anyway, I've got the fish out the weed bed, and I'm charging along to get this, and the Germans have come out. They've had a little look what you're doing. It's like, oh, you have the fish. Yes. Oh, you are crazy. Where's the boat? It's like, don't need a boat, mate. Can't carry it down there. It's like, yeah, but we have the boat and all of this. It's like, yeah, but I've got one. So anyway, it's in the landing net. So I've now got the landing net. I've got the rod. I've got an unhooking mat, and I'm on the other side.
Oh no!
I'm thinking, what can I do? So I'm trying now to get the fish onto the unhooking mat. My thought process was, if I can put the fish on the unhooking mat,
and then push it, yeah, and
all the way back,
swim.
Because you try and swim with, I reckon it was between 35 and 40 pound this fish. You try swimming.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, that's
with
not
that and a landing net and a mat.
It's not happening, is it?
No. And I tried. It's not going anywhere. If I was sensible,
you'd have got the German's boat.
I'd have got the German's boat. Or alternatively, I'd have swum to the margin over that side, dealt with the fish over there.
Yeah, there is that.
and then got them to take a picture or whatever and then come back. Anyway, so I just couldn't do it. I'm trying to lift the fish onto the unhooking mat, and every time I'm lifting the fish up, of course, the fish is staying where it is. I'm pushing myself.
You're dipping down.
Yeah, so don't try it, folks. It doesn't work.
That's madness, isn't it?
Yeah. So,
incredible.
But it's, Cassein, like anywhere, it's about thinking outside the box. Don't do the norm. Just step outside a little bit and do something slightly different.
I need to go. I've heard Briggsy and you talk about it. Everybody talk about it. It's it's got to be done, especially as you say, like do the places when you can do them because now is the time, so to speak.
Well, good fishing never lasts forever, and whether you're talking about Mary, whether you're talking about the Black Mirror, whether you're talking about Bernadette, whether you're talking about the Burfield Common, if you want to catch the Burfield Common, the best time you can go is tomorrow. Well, probably not coming into winter; it'll be a bit tricky, but actually, it might not be there the day after tomorrow. No. So if you want to do something, go and do it. And again, I was thinking about this on the way over, because I'm after a big. I'd like to catch a 4 pound perch at the moment. I've got a real target of trying to catch a 4 pound perch, and
a river fish, or does it matter?
I'd love it to be a river fish.
Yeah, amazing.
Particularly a river fish. That would be fantastic. But the problem is that to catch one of them, you've got to go where they are. And there's two problems with that. Firstly, you don't necessarily know where they are.
No.
And secondly, you have actually got to go there.
Yeah.
So, if anybody's listening to this or watching this and they want to catch the first 20 pounder, the best thing you can do is go where loads of 20 pounders live.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you want to catch a 30 pounder, guess what? And if you want to catch a 40 pounder, then go where 40 pounders are.
You need to speak to Matt Woods from Coram and go and fish wherever he is, wherever he's fishing on those rivers.
It's funny you say that, because he's arguably the most consistent perch angler at the moment. He's catching so many big ones. He's had a 4 out the river, and if you have a look at his post, you'll always see a hashtag with me saying at the end of it. And there's this standing joke that he went, "Yeah, I'll take it." So every time there's a photograph comes up, I just put hashtag home. Yeah.
Please.
Don't forget.
I can't say too much about Matt, because I did some filming with him before coming to Nash, and he is relentless. When he finds them, he knows, and he just waits for the right time when they're going to be absolute hogs. And
he's good.
He's good.
He is very, very good.
You'll
at
do
it.
that, mate. I'm sure you will.
Yeah. I will if he's taking me. So, but no, look, it like anything, it's people talk about good anglers, and I know Crowe very much. He was one that started saying it years and years ago, because people talk about good anglers, and there are one or two anglers that are phenomenally gifted because they're just naturally gifted. But the majority of people can get to the Premier League level that you need to get to, whatever that Premier League level is. And after that, it's actually about effort. Yeah. Now, obviously there's knowledge, there's access. To a degree there's ability, but carp fishing, all fishing isn't difficult, really. No. What you've got to do is you just got to suss out what you've got to do. You've got to go to the right place to do it, and you've got to be lucky enough that it's the right time. Yeah. Now, the more experience you have, the more you know what the right time is likely to be. Yeah. And the more you understand how those fish feed, the more likelihood you have of understanding what the right thing to do is. So it's not difficult. So, this almost sounds flippant, and I don't mean it to be, but if you said, right, go out and catch a 60 pounder. Yeah. All right, let's go out and catch a 60 pounder. Now, I can't tell you I'll catch it tomorrow, but it wouldn't be difficult to go out and catch a 60 pounder, because the first thing you do is you find a venue. Yeah. The second thing you do, and I have this with the Team England side of things, we have a flow chart of failure, okay, which sounds really strange, but... A
flow chart of failure?
My flow chart of failure, and that's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing, because what I've got to look at, and this is where you have to have the confidence in doing something. Do you think you can do it? And the answer is yes. Because if it's physically, humanly possible, then there's no reason why you can't do it. Yeah. But there are certain things that you might have to learn to do to be able to do it. Yeah. So my flowchart of failure is the flowchart of all of those things that will stop me doing it. Right. It's not how do I do that. Yeah. I don't want to know how to climb up the ladder. I already know how to climb up the ladder. Yeah. What I want to know is there a banana skin on the first rung? Is the second rung loose? Is the third rung covered in ice? So look at the flowchart of failure. What are the things that are going to stop you doing it? And then you get rid of as many of those things. And if there are 10 things that will trip you up, if you've got rid of 5 of them, whatever they might be,
you're in a better position.
You're in a much, much better position. And the more failure flowchart ticks you can move out of the way, the more likelihood you've got of catching it. And, and it might be time, it might be preparation, it might be whatever it might be. You've just got to think about the thing. But ultimately, and Crowe is a phenomenally successful angler. I know we've spoken about him quite a lot. We've been mates a long time, so I'm always going to have his corner anyway. Yeah. But he is, without any shadow of doubt, one of the best anglers out there.
Totally.
Because his effort levels, he can do it, whatever it is. And there's loads of people that can do it. He can do it, but his effort levels that he puts in.
Exactly.
If Crowe wants to go out and catch something, he'll catch it. Simple as, because he's got that exact same mentality. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have so many life distractions, whatever they might be, that sadly I can't turn my mind to be able to do that. So I have to do the bits around the outside that I can, because I'm very aware that I've got a very busy job. I've got a wife. I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. I've got all of the things that come with just being a normal bloke. Yeah. So as a result, I can't do certain things. Yeah. But hence the reason that it's even more important. This is why I think I'm a lucky angler, according to Tim or whatever, that actually when I do get the opportunity of going, you've got to go through that flowchart of failure first and go, right, let's tick all of these things off.
Yeah.
What are the things that are going to trip me up? Get rid of all of those. Hopefully I've got a free run. And then if the stars align, then you get it.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when you look at these things, suddenly you become lucky.
Yeah.
Which is,
but it's not really lucky.
Great. There's a bit of luck in it. There's always going to be a bit of luck in it. But, you know, it was lucky that it was Bernadette.
Yeah. But the bite and that whole process is not, because you've removed as much as you can.
It was really weird. My biggest fish, the rainbow fish, 75 pound 14. I was fishing in, I think it was peg 14 no, it might be 12. Actually, it was 12 in rainbow. Okay. And you've got really, really steep, what we call the W bars, because they are literally really, really up and down on either side. And I was fishing on them, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't having a bite, because I was convinced that they should be moving through this one way. Again, applying my flowchart of failure. Yeah. They're not going to be there because of this. They're not going to be there because of this. So therefore, they must be there.
Yeah.
So rather than trying to find out where they are, you can discount an awful lot first on various different areas. So, you know, if you're daunted by a task, get rid of half of it first and just look at the bit of it. And I'd looked at where I thought these fish must be, and I thought they're bound to be moving through there. And I've been fishing a spot for 3 days and not had anything. And it might just be coincidence, but suddenly I thought maybe they're just not at the bottom of the trench. Maybe they might be a little bit further up. And I've moved the rig a couple of foot up this bar rather than sitting it towards the bottom where I thought it should be. And lo and behold, a little bit later, I've had the bite. And interestingly, it was probably one of the easiest fish to catch, because we got the boat, we're fishing a polyball float above it. Yeah. The float's bobbed, the tip's nodded. I thought, yeah, there's a fish on that. I'm fishing a 10-ounce lead, but I can't play it in because there's this bar. So I thought, right, get in a boat, go directly over it without any pressure. Mate's in the boat with me. It's probably 10 foot below the surface. I've gone, ready? He's gone, yeah. I've gone, bang, lift. He's gone, scoop.
No way. As quick as that?
Probably 15 seconds.
I've seen, some of the takes on Rainbow have been absolutely savage. But as you say, you're fishing there and you get one bleak, then you go and just lift a 70 into a net.
And literally it was just that. We didn't even have a fight with it. It was literally just like, I think it's picked it up, thought, oh, what's going on? Yeah. Bang, got you. So, you know.
That's incredible.
But it's thinking that little bit differently.
Yeah, I like that.
You know, I think so many times we follow convention, whatever it might be. And if I'd have tried to play that fishing from the bank, almost certainly I'd have lost it.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'd have gone out with a boat and let it run off first, or played it on a clutch first, or on a, you know, reeled into it rather than leaving it open bell until I was directly above it, then that would have made a difference. Yeah. And, you know, again, I don't know why the thought process has come in, but one of the things that I'm mad keen on at the moment in my diving world is studying fish behaviour and psychology. And fish psychology is something that is a weird science that nobody has even thought of yet.
I was going to say, yeah.
But believe me, I study fish underwater all the time. I look at how they interact with me. I look at how they interact with each other. I look at how not just how they feed, because that's easy. Yeah. But let's have a look at how they feed with each other. And it's amazing when you look at the aquatic ecosystem with different fish interacting with each other. Who's the kingfish? And I'll give you one very, very easy prime example. You've got the king of the pond, whoever he might be. Yep. And he's been there for ages, and the fish underneath him aren't growing. No. They just don't get any bigger, and that's it. It seems to have reached a ceiling limit. Yep. And actually, in the end, he'll die.
And then they crack on.
And what happens is one will steam forwards from nowhere. The one that's been £42 for 6 years is now 48. Yeah. How can that be? And it's because the king of the pond that was holding everyone else back.
He takes that role, doesn't he?
He then takes it over. And the others will grow a little bit because there'll be a little bit of a jockeying first, but somebody will then come in. And people think hierarchy is really strange, but actually it happens across the animal kingdom.
Yeah, it's nature.
You know, exactly that. And you know, whether it's a lion in a pride, whether it's humans, whether it is fish, whether it's whatever, there's always going to be that hierarchy as you've got different creatures interacting with other creatures in there. Yeah. Another thing that I'm looking at the moment is communication between fish, and I've noticed various different ways that they communicate with each other. And
what? That fascinates me.
I'm not going to sound for a start, but body language and behaviour.
So like crunching the pellets or something?
Yes, but that's not necessarily communicating with each other. That's a secondary communication, because they basically hear it and think, oh, there's something going on over there. Yeah. But actually, there's quite a lot of because it's an area of mine that I'm really interested in. I've become a bit of a nerd on it, so I'm looking into how it works. And people might say it's a little bit deep, but you know what? Any groundbreaking thing is always a little bit deep. But there's been a study on a load of fish that were outside a harbour, and there was boat traffic that was increasing into this harbour.
These are carp, or
No,
different?
these are
Okay.
different fish, but it's about the communication system between fish first and foremost.
Okay.
And it's this that pricked my interest with it. And basically, these fish moved out of the area of the harbour entrance.
Yeah.
And scientists were studying why there was less and less fish there, and they thought it was pollution because they didn't like the pollution. But then they realised actually the water quality was great, so it's not pollution. It must be noise pollution because they don't like the boats and the disturbance of the traffic. And they sort of come to the conclusion that it was that. But they studied them a little bit longer, and they realised that it was because there was noise, but it wasn't the noise that was disturbing the fish. It was the fact that the fish can't warn each other of danger because of the noise.
Ah.
So you imagine, to put that into a human context, you live next door to a road.
Yeah.
It's noisy. It's a
Yeah.
bit of a pest, but you can live with it. But if you can't hear me telling you that you're going to get burgled,
I don't want to be there.
you don't want to be there.
No.
So we're going to look after each other, and I'll tell you if there's a problem. But if you can't hear me, then actually we'll move. And it was because the fish couldn't hear each other. And they got a system. And, you know, loads of people will have seen that incredible footage of the tropical fish taking stones and building that pattern.
Yeah.
You know, and also the way they communicate with each other. And this is the first thing that I'm thinking, well, if they're doing it, carp are doing it.
Surely. Yeah, exactly.
But we don't, firstly, we don't really think about it. And secondly, we can't see it.
No.
But because of the world that I live in an awful lot of the time, I get to see it. And it's amazing just looking at the interaction and the reaction
That's
between
cool.
fish.
It's very groundbreaking. Those two elements I wanted to touch on. I mean, I'll probably do about 50 podcasts with you. Rob, brilliant. The TV side of stuff and the diving side of stuff, you've taken it all back without all these mega captures and all that quality carp fishing. You've got a legal career. You've then somehow found time to do all that. Then you've now got TV.
Yep.
And then you've got your diving now and you sort of roll now. How has all that morphed in? How do you fit it all in?
Life's for living.
Wow.
Isn't it? You know, there's I just love it.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I absolutely love it. It was a big step actually, because as a young lawyer, all I wanted to be was a lawyer.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's every young lawyer's dream to be a partner in a firm, you know, a good firm, and you've made it and everything like that. And I've sort of got that at 29 and thought, oh, that's it. I don't want that.
Was it anticlimactic then?
Yeah. Yeah, it really was.
In what way? Because I'd imagine like, well, I don't know. I'd imagine like if that's a goal you set yourself and you get there at 29, I'm guessing that your personality is not one that can just coast.
No, no, absolutely not. I think sometimes I can be self-deprecating because I don't think, you know, what is achievement? And I think achievement is a strange thing, because I look at things that other people have achieved and I think, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But if I do something, I can't be that much because I've done it. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
So I've done it. So what's next? And, you know, I'm very much look forward. I think our past shapes us and we learn from it, but we must never dwell on it. And it's always important to learn the lessons of the past. But if we can be positive and look forwards rather than look backwards, because what we tend to do is if we're looking backwards, we sometimes you look back with happiness, but a lot of the time you look back in anger or sadness or what was there and it's not there and it's gone. So let's go forwards with it. And because, you know, if you're hankering for what was, why didn't you make it that again? I think it's hard.
I'm trying to
find. It is hard.
I'm trying to think who said it to me. A very wise person said to me something like, "Living in the past is depression. Living in the future is anxiety, and living in the present is everything." Or something along those lines.
That's absolutely right.
Because you just think you get depressed thinking about what's happened, where it was, even if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
In the future, you don't really know. Nobody can know.
Why don't we worry about something? Let's you and I have a worry about it. Let's worry about what might happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is it going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. Mine not at all.
So there's no point worrying about it.
No.
It's definitely going to happen. Well, there's no point worrying about it now because we can't change it.
It's going to happen.
So it's going to happen. So you can't worry about something happening if it's going to happen, because it's happening whether you like it or not, and you can't worry about it not happening because it might not happen. So as a result, the best thing to do is really, really live now. You know, absolutely. And, you know, you've got to be mindful of stuff, obviously. You've got to be mindful of taking care of yourself. I think that's a key issue that's become very apparent to me in particular over recent times. So I think, you know, you
I mean, you're glossing over something pretty major, I think, in your life there, Rob. Like, for anybody who doesn't know, you had sepsis, mate.
Yep.
Which is, I mean, if you're putting together a list of things that
you don't
odds
want,
wise, you don't really, a lot of people come out from. You're saying like 60%, 70%?
Yeah. Combined with pneumonia, it's not great.
So that is all. Talk me through that, because that is a life changer.
I've always been fit and healthy.
Yeah.
With the exception of the odd binge on chocolate and put too much weight on, but we love a bit of that anyway.
Is that the vice? Chocolate?
Oh, chocolate's the vice. I'm not a drinker.
Booze?
No, not really.
Not illegal drugs?
No, I'm vehemently against any illegal drugs. I absolutely, sorry if anybody out there, and I appreciate there's a bit of it around, but I absolutely detest cannabis in particular, because I think it causes psychosis. I think it just warps people's minds too much. And I'm not just anti-drugs, I'm vehemently anti-drugs.
Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker primarily because, I like a drink, I'll have a drink, I'm not anti-drink. But I think it's wrecked quite a few people's lives, and also I value my driving licence. I drive so much that I don't get the opportunity. I also like to try and keep myself fit, but chocolate gets in the way of that now and again. I love a bit of chocolate.
Chocolate is very good.
So, yeah, it is. Tunnocks chocolate bars.
Tunnocks chocolate bars?
Yeah, chocolate caramels.
That's an edge. I like caramel. I've got such a sweet tooth, mate. It's bad.
Well, get the golden red ones.
I've got to stay away from that stuff.
They're the ones. But anyway, the I suppose the long and short of it is that I was kicking the arse out of it a bit last year, work-wise and everything. The immune system was a bit low, and I got taken ill in Russia. And it turns out that I had pneumonia without realising it. And, of course, being a bloke, just thought, I'll be all right. I'm fine. Just soldier on. It's only a cold. And I could hardly breathe, and it was, it's fairly hefty.
Pneumonia, the silent killer, mate. Yeah, it's pretty hefty.
I'll be all right. So I'll walk it off. It'll be fine.
Jog it off.
And then, and it developed into sepsis.
Wow.
And sepsis awareness is something that I just didn't have any of. And it's really, really important that people know about this, because it affects, quite a few people. It's one of the biggest killers now. I was reading some research, and it's up there with cancer. But the problem with sepsis as a killer is that it doesn't get you over a long period of time. It gets you very, very, very quickly. And basically sepsis is blood poisoning.
Yeah.
And when you've got it, you've got a very short period of time to get treatment for it. If your body can't fight it off, then it will kill you within 3 days. And it is really, really, really dangerous. And I was lucky because I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, right, get to hospital. Got to hospital, and they managed to get a drip in me, 2 bags of drip, antibiotics on. And it's a little bit like a seesaw, that when the infection gets into your blood, it travels all the way around your body, and it basically kills you from the inside. So it kills your organs, and it poisons your organs so they don't function properly, and eventually you that's it, you're gone.
You shut down, and
it does it quickly. Yeah, it does it very, very quickly. And it's a bit like a seesaw, and as soon as it's gone beyond the point, it doesn't matter what treatment you have, it's actually too late, because the poison's taken hold and you can't get pulled back from it. That was a tough time. That was a tough time. It was around about just before this time last year, September last year.
It's not long ago, is it?
No. I was in Russia when I was ill, which made it a little bit worse.
Yeah, is that where you want to be when you're ill?
So
not really.
It's a lovely country. They've got everything, but that's the key. It's being back at home and being able to do what you need to do. So I got back, and I was in hospital for a while.
I know,
It was tough, but come out of it, and I'm here.
What adjustments have you made? Any lifestyle-wise? Because obviously you said there that a trigger point, if you like, was the fact that you were smashing it work-wise and very busy and probably a bit run down.
Yeah.
Any adjustments made, or is that just in you to be?
A little bit, but again, I think by the time you get to my age, then you are sort of more or less what you are, and it's very difficult to change. I always think that a man's a man by the time he's 30. So whatever you're seeing in a human being by the time they're 30 years of age, that's probably what they're going to be.
Right.
And if anybody looking for jobs, or anybody employing people, or anything like that, just think about that, because if you've got somebody that is 30 years old and they're seemingly still a little bit slow, the chances are that's in their character. Right. And it's difficult to change that. Whereas if you see somebody that's sharp and that's on it, you know that they're going to go forwards, because you're the man that you're going to be by the time you're 30.
You're set.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And we have life-changing circumstances. We have marriages. We have births. We have deaths. We have all of these things that go on in life. But the chances are a man has moulded himself into the person he's going to be by the time he's 30. I've always been a bit of a grafter.
Yeah.
I think we've not been handed anything. You work it. I come from effectively a single parent family.
Yep.
And I'm not going to give any sob stories or anything like that. I had a wonderful childhood.
Yeah.
But we weren't rich or particularly skilled in any way, shape or form. We just go out and you do it. So that's
it's always in you. It's amazing. Like I'm very fortunate in this role. I get to speak to a lot of top anglers and a lot of sort of top people associated with the industry, and that is a common factor. It's just the graft. You can't substitute that with any form of talent, with any form of anything. If you don't graft, you don't graft, but probably not at the detriment of your health, Rob.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm here still, aren't I?
Yeah, no,
I'm here and I'm fine.
You've done all right.
So yeah, it's no. I think, you know, just as a life lesson, because I thought I was invincible. To a degree, I still think I'm invincible, but every now and again, the devil on the one side says, "Look, calm down a bit, son.
Yeah, chill out.
You know, remember what happened and relax a little bit." And I think, you know, health is one of the most important things, whether that's mental health, whether it's physical health.
Yeah.
It is so important to your whole being that you are well. And I'd urge anybody that perhaps drinks a little bit too much or smokes, just have a think about the consequences.
Yeah.
Because we do think that it's never going to happen to us.
No, of course.
We all do.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
it. Oh, I'll be all right. But, you know, it's just one of those lessons that actually the most important thing that you've got in this life is you.
Yeah. Totally.
And so just look after it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whether it's, you know, mental health, whether it's physical health. And I think the two are intrinsically linked as well. The physical health helps your mental health massively.
Totally.
Just massively. When I couldn't walk from one side of this room to the other when I was ill. I was in bed. I was in hospital for a while. I was then in bed for a week afterwards.
Wow.
I lost all of the muscle structure that I'd got. It was almost a learning curve to try and walk again. Physically, I would walk 3 or 4 paces and I'd run out of steam.
Gassed,
I couldn't go any further. Then a week later, I'd be able to get out of bed and stay up for a couple of hours, but then I'd need to sleep either on the settee or back to bed again. And it was you just can't see through it. You know, I really, really couldn't see through it. But ultimately, there's going to be a tomorrow. And if you're looking at getting better and better and better, you've just got to work at it.
Chip away at it,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Because it comes and, you know, I changed my running style. I'm back into running again.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't look like it at the moment because I've been back into chocolate for the last 6 weeks.
Well.
But I got back into running, and about, I would say probably end of August time, I ran an 8-minute 4-second mile, which is actually very, very quick because I'm more of a cart horse. If you said plug yourself in and run 20 miles, then I can do it at 10-minute miles, no problem. So I changed my running style just to increase my fitness, and I'm running 8-minute miles again.
Yeah, nice.
Now, if you'd have said that to me
a year ago,
I couldn't have walked 8 yards.
That's mad, isn't it?
So everything's possible if you want to.
Very good message.
Just try and be as positive, because it's a shit time at the moment, isn't it? You know, whether it's financial, whether it's, not seeing people you want.
Yeah.
But the clock turns. And this is the one positive that we've got to think, that time waits for absolutely nothing. It won't wait for COVID. It won't wait for illness. It won't wait for money. It won't wait for anything on. The clock will carry on turning.
Ticking.
And actually, what we've seen is that historically, time moves on.
You just wait
Life
it
moves
out,
on.
don't you? Nothing else you can do.
Yeah. Batten down the hatches
Exactly.
and sail through it.
Let's talk about TV I was going to talk about. So obviously BT Sport on the bank.
Yep.
Sky Sports back in the day. How did that progression from law, realising that you're a partner in a firm and that wasn't for you, and then into TV and sort of media-wise fishing, how did that come to be?
Well, I'm just going to move this mic around. Hang on a second. That's better.
Yeah, nice.
There we go. Well, the two were linked again. Everything's sort of linked, isn't it? Excuse me, I'll burp.
No, you're right.
Yeah. The two things are linked, really. You know, everything is linked to a degree.
Yeah.
And it was the law that got me on TV in the first place, because back in the day there was a program on Sky Sports called Tight Lines.
Yeah, Keith Arthur.
Keith Arthur. But earlier on than Keith was the guest. It was run by a guy called Bruno Brooks.
Yeah,
the radio DJ. So he was on there. Keith was the resident expert.
That's right.
And then they used to wheel another bloke on, and they would wheel on various different people.
That's right. They used to have a sea expert, and then
it'd be sea, then it'd be coarse, then it'd be match, then it'd be trout, then it'd be carp.
That's right.
So they'd spotted, I think Keith had obviously seen, or somebody had seen somewhere, that I was a lawyer.
Yeah.
And being a lawyer at a party is an absolute nightmare. It's the same as being a doctor at a party. You don't tell anybody you're a lawyer or a doctor, because if you're a doctor, I've got this ever such a big pain in my elbow. Is there any chance you can look at it? Blah, blah, blah.
Oh, this again.
So what happens is people come to you with legal questions. So people came to me, hey, you're a brief, aren't you? I've got this really obscure legal question that nobody in the country knows the answer to. What is it?
Thanks.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
What
cheers.
party this is?
So I started looking into fisheries and environmental law. And again, sort of slightly entrepreneurial. There weren't any fisheries and environmental law solicitors. Well, there were 2 at the time in the whole of the country. So I started looking at fisheries and environmental law, whether it's pollution cases, whether it's leases for fisheries. Because let's face it, if you're not an angler, you don't know anything about fishing.
Of course you don't.
So as a result, as anglers, we need people to understand what we do.
Yeah, you need that link. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought, well, I'll create that link. So I set up a fisheries and environmental law department with the firm I was at.
Right.
And Tight Lines heard about it and said, right, you can come on as the Fishing Legal Eagle.
Perfect.
So they got me on, and it was a live phone-in show then. So you'd sit in the studio and people would ring up with various different questions, which was quite interesting.
You've been on camera before? No.
No.
What was that like then? A live phone-in?
It is what it is. Just crack on with it.
Oh, you don't care.
Well.
So Hollywood, mate. That's quality, isn't it?
I don't know.
That's what it is.
Just, well, there could be 2 people watching this. It could be 20 million watching it. But it's you and me talking in a room, isn't it? So that's basically it. So there's a bloke rung me up. The fact that people can see the conversation makes no difference. Yeah. So I've been used to standing on my hind legs in court, and believe me, that is really nerve-wracking. Not just because you're standing on your hind legs in court putting legal argument to, but actually a lot of the time there's people in the room that are your peers. Yeah, and that is horrendous. Yeah. Because in a magistrate's court, when you stand up, there's loads of other solicitors there watching you,
all like educated, judging eyes.
So imagine when you go carp fishing. Yeah,
Terry Hearn behind you.
Everybody watching what you're doing. Oh, I wouldn't have done it like that. Oh no, he's fluffed that one. Oh dear.
Complete noddy.
Yeah. So, you don't want to do that. So, they got me on there and I had a chat with them and they went, oh, do you want to come on as a regular? So there was me, Lee Jackson and Terry and Frank Warwick.
Yes.
I think who were the regulars that used to go on there, and they'd cycle the 4 of us as the carp fishing stuff. And then I said, any chance you can cover the British Carp Champs? Yeah. Which I'd set up and run.
Of course you had.
Yeah. So they went, yeah, no problem at all. So they covered it and went on Tight Lines. They said, you report on it, we'll send a camera in and we'll put it on telly. So I thought, brilliant. So I thought I'd be necky here and said, right, any chance we can have our own programme? And I met with the head of Sky Sports and said, I'd like to do
my own show.
Basically put the British Carp Angling Championships together. And he went, okay, how are we going to do that? And I said, well, actually, I haven't got a clue.
It's complete blag.
I know what to say. If you can give us the cameras and the editors and I can work with your guys, then we'll put it together. And he went, all right, we'll give you a spin, see what it's like. So they gave us a camera and they gave me an editor. And they said, crack on and go make it. So we went out, made the show. Bearing in mind, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. So made it, went back, working with the editors at Sky, got the thing put together, went back again and said, happy days. Not only would I like to do this again, but I'd like to bring out the first ever carp fishing show. Yeah. So there's loads of fishing shows. You know about Tight Lines. I'd like a carp fishing show. Yeah. And they turned around and went, don't run before you can walk, son. Yeah. Back in your box. Prove to us that you can do this. Yeah. And we'll talk about it. It's like, right, happy days. So it was a little bit of a, hey, we're off. Oh, hang on a second. Calm down.
That's a big shout to give you a cameraman and let you go and film.
Yeah.
Though at the same time.
It was great and it worked. So, that obviously went quite well. I think that was 2001.
Can you imagine doing that now? Just rocking up. You wouldn't get there, would you?
No, it just wouldn't happen, would it?
No. So Guy, excuse me, can I just have a fishing show, please?
Yeah.
Just me and Rob fishing for £4 perch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's it. Happy days. Go on, crack it. Here's a camera.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
I'll go on with it. So, so anyway, we went out and did the show, and then they went, yeah, okay, we'll give you the show. And that was the carp show. So the carp show started off, and I can't even remember when it was, but 2002, 2000,
early
20 odd
2000s,
years ago,
isn't
wasn't it? Yeah, so we basically just did a show on carp fishing,
mate.
Which was brilliant, and it was in the very, very early years. Then I think that did 2 or 3 seasons, and then we turned it into the Extreme Carp Show, which is where we made it not just bog standard carp fishing, but there's only so many times that you can watch a PVA bag being tied. So then we turned it into a little bit more extreme. So the smallest lake, the biggest lakes and rivers, the big carp, the small carp, all of that lark, which is where we nearly got shot down, me and Steve, obviously. So all of that lark. And then started doing match fishing programs as well. And then it was 5 years ago that BT got in touch and they said, look, we've seen what you're doing over there. Do you fancy
So they contacted you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So they said, come and have a chat. And they basically said, we'd be interested in doing some fishing content. Come and have a chat. So went and had a chat with them, and I met the head of sport, which was, it's in at quite a high level there.
That's big.
And he said, so why are you sat in front of us? It's like, well, you've asked me to come over here. Yeah. And he went, so you're not happy at Sky then? It's like, well, I didn't necessarily say that.
You called me, mate.
Yeah, let's have a chat. So we had a chat, and he said, well, "Look, we'd be," and he was good. He fantastic, but he's not there anymore. But he was a really, really good bloke. And he said, "Look, we like what you do. Just wanted to see how the ground laid. We'd be interested in you coming over. Would you be interested in doing something?" And with Sky, what we used to do is we'd make a number of programs, but they wanted them back end of the year.
Okay.
So we'd film, for example, the UK Angling Championships in May, June, July, and August, but it wouldn't get aired until November.
Right.
Because continuity program, they'd want 12 shows together, and it would run through November, December, January, whatever. So we'd have to, it's like watching a repeat of the FA Cup final in January.
Yeah, it's dated, isn't it?
Yeah, so I thought, you know what, let's have a look at BT. So I said, well, yeah, it'd be great to come, but we'd need a weekly show. I went, yeah, no problem at all.
Wow.
Okay. It would have to be prime time as well. I don't want to be going on at 3:00 in the afternoon. It's like, right, when do you want it? So we had a look at what we could fit around the football, because football dominates sports channels. So 9:00 Monday nights. Oh, it was 7:00 Monday nights. It started off because we wanted to see if we can get kids involved in it as well. And then he went, yeah, no problem. Monday works for us.
That's brilliant.
And so we've had a prime time slot there. We changed it to 9:00 primarily because there's too much arguing over the remote control, or there was at 7:00 in the evening. But the kids have gone to bed at so
short time.
9:00's a little bit better, and it's sort of the kids are packed away. Normally 9:00 onwards, happy days. So we've run that, and we're on season 10 at the moment,
10,
which is great. Yeah, really, really good.
That long? That's incredible, mate.
Yeah, so we do 2 seasons a year. So that's 10 or 12 programs, and then we also cover all of the sporting events. So UK Champs, British Carp Champs, World Predator Classic, Fly Fishing Open, Saltwater Festival, absolutely anything to do with fishing, we cover. And it's BT are absolutely fantastic.
That's
really,
brilliant.
really good company to work with.
And it's good that, on that level, they view fishing as a priority, if not the priority in line with football, obviously, but still up there to put it prime time slots.
Well, one of the things that we have to look at is what is fishing. And I'm involved with the national governing body. I was working for Sport England at one stage, promoting angling as well.
Yeah.
So one of the key things that we have to do is look at what is angling, and this is a really, really important thing at the moment, particularly with what you can and can't do. And it's why it frustrates me so much with the expert who's on Facebook who knows exactly what he can and can't do, and disagrees with the likes of the national governing body, who are actually in at SAGE and government level dealing with ministers and have a direct line through to Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
And yet the bloke thinks, oh shit, that we can't do this.
Yeah.
You know what, it might be. And I've seen so many times, particularly in the match angling fraternity at the moment, where they say, well, we can organise a match safely. You know what, I understand that. I can drive up the high street at 3:00 in the morning when nobody's around at 70 mile an hour. It's as safe as houses. You can't do it. It's illegal. The speed limit is 30 mile an hour.
And just take the win, because you can go.
That's it. So, and then if you work with, we can promote and we can move it forwards. But for everyone that tries to buck the trend, actually, it's a nail in the coffin of angling. And if we work with it, it's benefit for it. But anyway, just going back to the work there. What is angling? And I have, this is going to sound a bit silly now, but there was a story brokered a while ago that hit all the national press. I was on Chris Evans talking about it as well. Fishing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And we broke that story because I'm trying to get fishing into the Olympics. And people think, well, that's crazy. It's not an Olympic sport. Well, let's have a look firstly at what it is. And secondly, let's have a look at why it can't be. And thirdly, let's have a look at why it's important. I'll start with that one first. Why is it important? It's important because it galvanises the fact that it's a sport. It galvanises the fact that there can be funding streams to assist the promotion of that sport. And also, where you have anti-anglers around, it will make it a lot more difficult for anybody to oppose it if it's classed as an Olympic sport.
Exactly.
So for the future longevity and protection of angling, it would be brilliant if it becomes an Olympic sport. So, can't be a sport. Why not? Well, what's sport? And a lot of people think sport is running or something physical. Well, let's have a look at other Olympic sports then. And I remember having a row with somebody, and it got a little bit heated at one stage, but the idiot presenter on BBC Radio 5 turned around to me and said, how can something that you sit down with a woolly jumper on be classed as a sport?
Yeah.
It's like, well, what's your point? Why couldn't it be? What's your point on that? He said, well, you're not moving. It's like, okay then, well, let's establish sports that don't move as well. And let's have a look at biathlon, or let's have a look at prone rifle shooting. Where you lie on the floor and you move your forefinger. You regulate your breathing and you move your forefinger. Now, I can't think of anything that you move less. Just doing that, and yet that's classed as a sport. Your body is stone still and you move your finger 3 mil. But that's classed as a sport. It's like, oh, yeah, but that's different. There's a skill level with it. Well, actually, there's a skill level with casting.
Exactly.
So if you're looking at javelin, if you're looking at shooting, they are subsidiary disciplines of either hunting or warfare, which actually, casting.
Of course.
You know, if you look at casting, it's a physical thing.
Yeah.
So there's subsidiary disciplines. So let's bring the casting side of things in. And this is where people get the wrong end of the scale. Firstly, we're not necessarily going to get fishing per se in. Carp fishing is never going to be in there. But casting could be. Because casting is a subsidiary discipline. Yeah. Exactly. So let's have a look at casting. Let's have a look at distance tournament casting. Let's have a look at accuracy fly casting. Let's have a look at accuracy carp casting. You know, all of these subsidiary disciplines, actually casting could be it. It's like, well, that's not the sport. Well, all right, are you saying that skeet shooting isn't shooting?
Yeah.
Are you saying that biathlon isn't shooting? It is shooting.
Of course it is.
So it's just a different style of shooting to what we do. So that's the argument. And for every, like sport, just as a definition, it has to have an element of physicality.
Yeah.
The element of physicality has to be something which is not in the normal course of events. I'll come to that in a minute. And it has to be competitive. So element of physicality, casting.
Yeah.
Not in the normal course of events. That means not something you normally do. And this comes from the Bridge case, because Bridge argued for their funding and it was removed. And they said it's not a physical sport. And they went, well, we pick the cards up and put them down. And the judge said, well, you pick a cup of tea up and put it down. It's the same movement.
Yeah.
So the physicality has to be something that's...
casting a rod is not a normal day action.
You would not do that in any other action other than casting a rod.
Yeah.
So as a result, there is a distinct element of physicality that's particular to that. And then competition, well, clearly.
Yeah. So
we tick all of the boxes for that. So actually it would be great to be able to then introduce it to the IOC and say, look, we tick all the boxes. We've got to take it forwards. So, you know, this is one of my drivers at the moment. But, you know, people turn around and go, well, it's not a sport. You know, it's a pastime.
But that's the bigger picture. I think the angling, like the whole thing that happened during lockdown and the fact that fishing we were allowed to fish where the likes of football, tennis, other sport, tennis, for example, was after us. Golf was allowed at the same time.
And it's been stopped now, though, golf, remember.
Of course,
but we're
tennis.
allowed. Yeah,
but
so
we're allowed
everything
to
has been stopped, but we're allowed to fish because of the really, really good job that the trust have done by getting straight to, you know, the direct heart of government, dealing with Sport England, dealing with the Minister for Sport, putting all of this evidence together, but also backed up very, very strongly by the fact that, one, it's clear that we can do it socially distanced.
Yeah.
Two, there is a fantastic benefit to people's mental health doing it.
Yeah.
Three, that actually there's a really, really good generation of revenue at this time where the economy does need to keep going. So all of these areas, you're keeping people employed, you're keeping
ticking boxes,
so many boxes ticked, not one negative box. So they can't really say no to it.
No.
And this is where that pastime and sport, why do we have to say it's a pastime? And why do we have to say it's a sport? Why can't we say that it's both? Because let me give you two examples. What is swimming?
Well, swimming could be both, couldn't it? You could competitively swim or I could go for a few laps around the pool.
What is cycling?
Yeah, exactly the same. I could cycle to work or I could race.
So why can't we have exactly the same thing there? And people turn around, it's not a sport, it's a pastime. And if you talk to the competitive anglers out there, they're only interested in the competition. They're not interested in the other. But actually, angling is such a great thing. It's so broad, so wide that it can cover whatever you want it to be. Yeah, and you know, whenever I talk to people that don't fish about it, I say, look, it's basically like motorsport. That in motorsport, you've got wheels and an engine.
Yeah.
And that's where the similarity ends. And you could be on 2 wheels on tarmac, or you can be 4 wheels in the desert. You know, there are so many different types of motorsport, and it's exactly the same that we've got a rod and fish. Yeah. But other than that, carp fishing is so different to sea fishing, to trout fishing, to fly fishing, to ice fishing. There's so many different things. So it is a pastime and a sport all rolled into one.
Yeah, I like that.
And, you know, and we just need to educate people more.
Yeah, exactly. It's perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that age-old stereotype of, what fishing is. I'm going to give you 3 last bits, I think, to sort of a couple of sections that we ask guests and then a little quick fire round because it's been a brilliant podcast. I'm going to listen back to this. It's so good. I'm going to enjoy editing this, actually, mate, because there's so much information in it. You're an absolute star for coming on. Thank you so much.
We haven't actually talked about many carp either.
I know.
That's crazy.
There's so much on my sheet of paper as well. Like, brilliant. Carp gossip, mate, section that I like. Ooh. What's the strangest rumour that you've heard about yourself?
Oh, blimey.
And I'd imagine you know what the carp world's like.
There's a few. Me and Crowie were gay. So, yeah, we were, you know, back in the early days, it was clear that we were gay carp anglers together. Really? The only reason, because we were the first duo to go fishing together.
Right.
You know, there were lads that would go fishing with each other, but because we were inseparably together all the time, then everyone was convinced that we must be gay. And there was a little bit of malice around at the time from some of the old guard that didn't like the fact that what they were doing, which was perceived to be hard, was actually being shown to be quite easy by a couple of
two little
young
chippy lads.
kids that shouldn't know anything about. And, you know, there's so much of that around. People that have seemingly got a little reputation for something defend what they do as being really hard to make themselves look better, when actually it's not hard. You just got to have a go at it.
I like
That's
that.
all. So, yeah, we were gay. The other one is when we won the World Championship, the first time, this is the Fishermill World Cup with me and Simon, we won it because my mum was smuggling carp.
Wow.
That's because my mum she was there with my Kath, my now wife, but then girlfriend. They came along to support us. And of course, they'd bring sandwiches and other bits and bobs.
Carp.
And carp, yeah.
And you won it on Nash Bait, didn't you?
Yeah, we won it on Nash Bait, Ball pellet. That was when the ball pellet was launched.
Ball pellet.
Ball pellet and tangy squid.
Tangy squid, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Edges.
Absolutely phenomenal, yeah. But
Incredible.
so we won it because my mum was smuggling carp.
She wasn't she?
Big uns. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's amazing how you know how many 20
That's
kilo.
ridiculous, mate.
How many 20 kilo carp can an old lady get in a handbag?
Got some handbag, hasn't she?
That's impressive. Yeah, that was impressive.
Cheers,
so
Mum.
that was that one. Yeah, good skills on that.
They're good.
So so there's two good ones.
Right, the next one. Words of wisdom. The best piece of advice you've received, both fishing related and non-fishing related.
Ooh. Make the most of any opportunity in front of you. Don't let things slip. Don't, whether it's fishing, whether it's job opportunities, whatever, just if you've got a chance to do something, have a go at it. Because if it doesn't work out, you can always backtrack. But if you never tried it, then, you've potentially missed an opportunity there. And I
like that.
I like to be quite positive, but there's been loads of little opportunities that I've missed in the past that I look back on now. And
Any particular ones that sting?
oh God, yeah, buying a little plot of land in Romania for $200 that was later worth about $200,000.
Really?
So yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, we were in Romania and there was a little for sale sign on a patch of land just on the outskirts on the way to Bucharest. And I remember saying to the bloke that was taking us there, well, just as a matter of interest,
How much is that?
how much would that plot of land be? He was like, oh, it's nothing, it's crap, it's $200 an acre, that sort of thing. And it was maybe a couple of acres, so maybe $400, what, 300 quid?
Nothing.
And I just thought, blimey, that's cheap.
Yeah.
And then just didn't think anything of it. And then later on, as I got to know more and more Romanian blokes, basically it was not far from the airport and it expanded out there.
Wow.
And it became worth, when they were trying to get into Europe, there's so much money put into the infrastructure in the area that it was worth hundreds of thousands. You just think.
But I reckon even if you'd have
blimey.
even if you'd have made that investment, you'd still be doing what you did now, wouldn't you, mate?
Oh,
You wouldn't be
absolutely.
changing anything.
No, it's not. No, yeah, it's easy to say it's about money when you've got money, but actually it's not about money. It's I don't do what I do for any. And if I wanted money, I'd have stayed in the legal profession.
Yeah, you wouldn't be in fishing.
So, no, absolutely.
No.
Make no mistake about that. I am
Yeah.
so in love with angling.
Yeah.
Even now, bearing in mind I started 40-something years ago, I'm so in love with angling now. It can be a pain in the backside sometimes. There's days when I just think, oh, God,
Yeah.
I've got to do that, whatever it might be. But
This podcast.
absolutely. It was a 3.5-hour drive. So,
to be fair.
yeah, it's a fair old hack over. But, it's angling, isn't it? And when it's in you, it's in you. And I defy any angler out there.
No, yeah.
When it's infected you, it's infected you.
And
you're
you
there.
can't do this unless you have that level of passion for it. 'Cause
No.
You couldn't sustain it.
No, I've done all sorts of things. I've done car rallying. I was into BMXs when I was younger. Mountain bikes is a little bit older. I love going up and down mountains. I've done all sorts of things. But you know what? You go into it and you drift out of it, and you go into it and you drift out of it. And angling has been in there forever, and it will always.
You
be
can
there,
see the
so,
passion, mate.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
only in your career, but obviously the way you talk about things.
Yeah.
And we have to line you up for another pod because there's more to talk about. I haven't even done Team England. I've glossed over all of that, but there's so much information. This pod, it's been unbelievable, mate. Especially sort of historical captures that I really didn't know much about. Sort of saw you on TV mainly.
Well, one of the things that I'm really proud of as well is some of the early Shropshire captures. We haven't touched on that now, and I don't do that much in the UK now because I do quick hit short session fishing a lot of the time in the UK. But I used to be massively into, the Shropshire meres in particular. Some of the big fish up there. But Frank Warwick put a post up the other day about Birch Grove, which was one of the iconic old Shropshire waters, real old, true original fish. And, back there we had a winter syndicate on there. And it was the only lake that really I've absolutely fallen in love with and regularly gone back to outside of Cassein.
Really?
And it was a phenomenal time. We're talking mid-late 90s, and we're talking catching £30 plus winter fish, which wind the clock on now, it's 40-pounders.
Oh, it's massive.
And, catching 10, 40-pounders in a winter.
It's incredible.
Just, and you learn so much
Yeah.
from that. It made me really, really a very technical angler, because that lake at the time was the epicenter, because Tim Paisley was running it. All the big names used to go there.
So the level of angling was
incredibly high.
Yeah.
Incredibly high. And I used to see this in the British Carp Champs, where you had an event that had got a load of very, very good anglers in. And I don't mean to be demeaning to anyone that wasn't in there, but a particular event where there would be a load of really, really good anglers, the catch results would be really low. And you can see that with a game of football. If you get a really good Liverpool against a really good Man City, they cancel each other out.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you look at a result and some bloke's caught £600. It's because he's a phenomenal angler and he's got a load of people that aren't really that good around him, and he's been able to capitalise on their fish as well as his own. But where you've got someone that's really good, just when you're locked horns head to head with people that are not
Your
necessarily
level.
better,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
really, really good level,
Yeah.
then that is such a great learning curve. And, again, if you want to improve in your angling journey, set yourself a target, but go for it. And I'll visit this one. No, actually, I'll come to it now. Every New Year's Eve, I think I might have told you this before, every New Year's Eve, we sit down and we have a family meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that family meeting, we sit down, we get a piece of paper out, and it's happened for years now.
It's brilliant, this.
And we write down what we would like to achieve this year. And it can be anything at all. 10 things that you'd like to achieve. Don't make them resolutions, because resolutions normally fail.
Yeah.
But just make them things. Just sit down for a minute and think about what you'd like to do. So, for example, I would love to have hair like yours.
You can do that, mate.
Yeah,
It's better already.
It's quality. No, and I write them down. So I write down, I want to catch a 40-pounder in England this year. I'd like to catch a 50-pounder from a different country. I'd like to break my PB.
Yeah.
There was one year I wanted to learn to play the guitar. There was another year that I wanted to go up Everest. There was another year I wanted to go up Kilimanjaro.
You wanted to go up Everest?
Yeah,
Wow.
only to the bottom of Everest Base Camp, but you know what I mean. But,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. There was another one where, would you believe it, I wanted to learn to skip like a boxer. Just skipping. There was another one that was pogo stick that was
That's
hard. Pogo stick was really hard, but just little things. And then all of the family do it. So the kids do it.
That's cool.
I do it. Everybody does their little things. And then we also turn a sheet over, and on the other side, we do 10 things that we like to do as a family. So it might be we want to go to Cassein on holiday again, or we want to, make sure that we go out for this or that, or whatever we do. One of them, Dad must stop farting in public. That was
never going to happen. Scratch that off of
Yeah,
this.
that's impossible.
Yeah.
And I put £50 common from a new country, and it was about 2 years ago. I think Jack said, "I don't know why you bothered doing that, Dad." Well, what do you mean? He said, "Well, you never do it. You did that last year, and you didn't do it, and you did it the year before, and you didn't do it either."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but son, it doesn't matter that I haven't done it yet. It's a target of mine, and I'd like to do it. And I gave him it's not all about the putting it down. It's having that target, and just because you don't achieve it today doesn't mean you're not going to achieve
chat.
it. So I gave him the dad chat, and I finished, and he went, "You still won't do it."
Yeah. And then you did it.
And I thought, "You little bugger, I'll show you."
Yeah.
So I thought, where can I go for a 50-pounder now? Because I've got time. Where can I go in January for a 50-pounder? And it's hard. A £50 common in January is quite a tough thing to call. And I rang Parco.
Yes.
And said, "Are you still open in Italy?"
Great shout.
And he went, "Yeah." I said, "Can I come over for 3 days?" And he went, yeah, no problem. He said, "It's cold and it's hard and there's hardly anything being caught." It's went, "Yeah, but there's a chance, isn't it?" He went, "Yeah, there's a chance." I had a £58 common. So
have that.
So I came back the third week of January and dropped the photographs in front of the son and just went, "There you go, son."
It's a good lesson to the kids, though,
So,
isn't it?
what he did, but I only caught that because he said what he'd said. Because otherwise it would have been on the list. And this is another thing that I say all the time. Have you done this? No, I haven't got any time. Have you fished? Mate, I just haven't got the time. You have got the time. You have got exactly the same time as me. And everybody that's watching this, we've got exactly the same amount of seconds in a day. It's where that time list.
It's how you prioritise that.
Priority is the key,
isn't
it? So what's on your priority? And you know what? If a £50 common is list 9,
you'll do it. Well, you won't do it.
Then leave it. But if it's higher up, then do it. So just have a think about what the priorities are.
Yeah, I like that.
And so, we've done this thing all the time. And then the following New Year's Eve, what we do is we get the envelope out, because once we've written it down, we don't remind ourselves. We put it in there, and we'll open it the following year, and I'll go, "Why did I want to learn the pogo stick. What was that about?
I had too many more wines.
So yeah, but it might be now. But it's like you're on the spot now. 10 things and something crazy might come. It's like,
It's good though. That's a really nice activity.
It's as a family group thing. It's lovely.
Yeah.
And we unfortunately we are a little bit competitive, so we end up ticking the market. Oh, you've only done 6. I've done 7.
Come on.
So, yeah, but it's that sort of thing. But it's lovely. It really is a good thing to do. So I thank Jack for that £58 Colton.
Yeah,
that was a good result. But it's again, it just comes back to what you're saying. It's the priority, and if your priority isn't fishing, then don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up. But social media is terrible.
Oh.
And I look at it. The places have fished crap recently, and that's partly down to the rain and the algae in the water and all of that lark. But actually, I think it was last week there was a period of 3 days where it went ballistic, and Jacko had a 60 out, and Laney had that 49, and there was a load of other big fish caught. And there's these little windows of opportunity, and you can beat yourself up about it. It's worthwhile looking at what these windows of opportunity are. Remember that, because next year, just check it again, just in case, because the year after it might be that you need to be fishing then. And if you've only got 3 days to fish, go then. But don't beat yourself up. We look at social media and, oh God, they're catching loads. I'm not catching any. Oh, I'm all miserable now. What's your priority? Because if you want to catch them, then go
and do it.
And if you want to catch a 30-pounder, go with 30-pounders.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's a Crowe lesson, because his drive and motivation.
He's an animal.
If he wants something, he'll go and get it, and if he doesn't want it, he just won't do it.
I know. He was on. I fished with him at Acton, Lower Lake. There was a 40 and a 50G. He fished in the middle swims. I went with a chap. We caught literally within hours from the bay. There was loads of stockies there. Not interested in stockies. He's fishing for those 2 fish, and he'll stay there and save the blanks because that's what he wants. And that's the difference between that mindset, that success, and what it takes, as opposed to me, who just wants to get a bite. I've never fished one, never caught one from that.
But you got exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, totally. That's what I wanted.
That is brilliant, because it's a case of, what do you want?
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, go for what you want.
Yeah.
Don't go for what someone else wants, or what you think someone else wants, or what you think someone else thinks you should be doing. Just go for whatever you want.
Exactly.
Do what you want, but go for it. Don't not go for it. Don't sit there and think, because you come away from it and go, oh, if I'd have sat in that other peg, I might have caught that big one. Or then you go into the big one and you blank and you think, I should have gone with the small ones because I would have caught one.
Yeah, no one likes regrets or second thoughts.
Think about what you want, go for it, and that's it.
I like that very much so. Mr. Hughes, a quick fire round to end on. Nice and quick. You'll be all right on these, I think. UK 50 or foreign 70?
Oh, foreign 70.
Bait boat.
Have to be from a different country, though.
What country?
Well, I've had one from Germany and I've had one from France.
Yes, of course you've had one fish.
So Briggsy's had 70s from 4 different countries.
Yeah. You're going Germany?
So he hasn't had Germany yet.
No.
I've had Germany.
You've had Germany?
Yeah, he's had Austria. I haven't had Austria yet.
Austria.
So, yeah, Austria, Croatia. You see, the Hungary's a fairly easy one because you've got to go to Euraqua, and but I'm not sure about that one yet. There's me keep it reeling it.
You take one.
So, it's like Shumba 70s as well, isn't it? They've been done, but, a 70s is a 70s.
It's a big fish.
I was the first bloke to catch 70s from 2 different countries. First English bloke.
No way.
Yeah, with the German one. And then there was a few people had them from 3.
Yeah.
And I think now Sean McSpadden and Steve have had 70s from 4 different countries now.
That's a lot,
and
isn't
I don't know anyone else that's had 4. So it would be nice to be. I'd like to. If I had the opportunity.
Get on 5.
That's it, mate. That's the thing.
On up. Come on, boys.
Yeah, got to be done.
I don't doubt you if you put your mind to it, like you said. Bait boat or baiting pole?
They're the same thing without an engine.
You've got to choose one, though.
How have I?
It's baiting pole range.
I'll go baiting pole.
Nice.
Just technology is a pain in the back. Bait boats never work. There's one that works that I've used, and that's not a bad one. But the others is the Imperator. That's quite a good one.
Right.
But I've tried all sorts of other ones, and I end up just dumping the bait. I press the wrong button, and it just not anywhere. Anywhere would be good. I dump it 4 foot out in front of my rod tip, so the swans all come in.
Swan line. Yeah. Would you rather experience carp fishing 20 years ago or 20 years in the future? We're not talking about the present.
20 years in the future.
Oh, I like that. Dawn or dusk?
Dawn.
Never use a shelter again or never use a bed chair again?
Ooh. That's a tough one, man. That is a tough one. A shelter I can put something over, or is that? Yeah, so I can have a tarpaulin over.
Maybe get away with a bit of tarp or just pull the
no, I'll
sleeping
do
bag
that.
over.
Yeah, I'll have a bit of that. I like living out in the stars anyway. So
Yeah, carpy. Leads and no bite alarms, or bite alarms and no leads?
oh, leads, no bite alarms.
A professional angler or a professional footballer?
For what? Playing
What would you
football?
rather be? Yeah.
Angler.
Yeah, I like that. Always torrentially raining when you go fishing, or always 30 degrees and windy?
Oh, Gordon Bennett, that's a tough one. See, it depends on the time of year. I'm analysing my underwater knowledge now, so I'll go with the sun because at least I can.
Sun, so you need to get a tan.
Yeah.
I like that. It's good. Would you rather catch 10 20-pounders or one 40-pounder?
It depends where and who I'm with and what I'm doing. There's always a depends on this. I'll go with a 40.
Yeah, I like that. For the rest of your life, only listen to drum and bass or country and western.
Oh, Gordon Bennett.
That's bad.
That is bad. See, I'm smack bang in the middle of those eras anyway, but I have to say that I'm getting into drum and bass. So I've discovered drum and bass recently.
I've never looked directly into this camera, but Rob Hughes, drum and bass.
No.
Yeah,
to be honest, it might be down to Alan because I love some of the stuff, and I first was aware of it with Urban Banks, and I thought, actually, what the hell's that noise?
Yeah.
And then listened to it a little bit more and thought, that's all right.
Go with your first instinct, Rob.
But having said that, there's have you heard of the Highwomen?
No.
Look up the Highwomen.
The Highwomen. I don't want to put that internet search.
No, like Highwayman.
Yeah.
But Highwomen.
Okay.
Right. Have a look at them. And they did Break the Chains, Fleetwood Mac, country and western cover.
Oh, good.
Great tune. Very good watching.
Very good watching.
Very good watching. Great
good
film.
recommendation.
Great film. Oh,
nice from you. Very nice. In a bucket or dig a hole?
Dig a hole.
Would you rather fish a 2 weeks session without changing your socks or without changing your underwear?
Underwear. Your feet are really important.
It's good. I remember Ryan Need in that championship.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Well, I do a lot of mountaineering as well, and you know your arse can cope with a lot more than your feet can if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
So,
your arse. That's a quote. I'll put that one in the trailer. Your arse can cope with a lot more than your feet can. Brilliant. Hook bait choice: bright or match the hatch?
Bright.
Camo or olive?
Olive.
Last one. Date night with the missus or hit the lake on the end of a big pressure drop and a southwesterly?
Date night with the missus. How sad is that?
No, that's good, mate.
Date night with the missus, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Rob, it has been a true experience. As I said, I'm going to look forward to editing this. Thank you all for watching or downloading, and I'm definitely going to get this man back on again to talk about more of his angling exploits because, mate, you've got so much to give.
Brilliant.
Mate.
Thank you for your time anyway, and thanks for listening. Cheers.
Cheers.